Gets the edge. Deuce Vaughn in the clear. Did he make a man miss? And it's easy. Touchdown, Kansas State. And the Cats get closer to the conference championship.
Welcome to Sikkim 365 Radio.
Couple steps back behind Hazik Daniels on 3rd and goal. Roberts, end zone, touchdown Air Force. He's done it again.
Sikkim 365 Radio is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
Frank Harris and this Roadrunner offense have been vital tonight.
Harris stepping, throwing, Franklin, touchdown!
Sikkim 365 Radio is also brought to you by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, protecting Texans since 1952.
Back to throw here. With time, receiver open in UCF territory. It's Shane Wyatt past the 30. Wyatt inside the 20. Wyatt stays involved. Touchdown, Tulane.
Have you subscribed to our YouTube channel? Search 365 Sports on YouTube. Brought to you by TFNB, your bank for life.
JJ's got it. Back to pass. Looking, fires to the end zone, and it is caught. Touchdown! Ronnie Bell in the back of the end zone, and Michigan extends their lead.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
You know, if you just wait around a little bit, not too long, there's going to be something in college football that changes, whether it's the transfer portal, the coaching carousel, and or any kind of NIL announcement. And just wait to be seen. A coach's contract changes. One goes to another. And, of course, this is a huge time for coaches on the road with National Signing Day coming up in just a little bit. We will have today the color analyst for the Air Force Academy football team in Jesse Wirtz at 3:30. Baylor will play them on December 22nd. Alexis Cubitt, who used to be an intern with us back in the day, she's now in the newspaper business in Louisville on the Jeff Brohm story, which we're about to discuss. UTSA's play-by-play broadcaster, Andy Everett, on the Frank Harris decision announcement coming up in about a half hour. Plus John Machota, a note from what Tim Brando told us Monday that we all heard it, but we need to discuss it in length, and Paul Catalina's top 5. So, Jeff Brohm, this is not a surprise. He was a really good coach at Purdue, lost to Michigan in the championship game, and now he is the head coach at Louisville. And if I am Louisville, the fan base, Satterfield's gone, and it was kind of like, okay, Louisville's fan base was okay. They lose Fickle, they get Satterfield. How about Louisville loses Satterfield and they get a hero and a legend in Jeff Brohm?
Their favorite son, the Brohm family, they're the Mannings of Louisville. That's what they are. They're huge there. They're beloved. Look, this doesn't always work out. I mean, there's a very recent example in Lincoln, Nebraska of the favorite son coming home just wasn't the guy to do the job. But I do think that because for a couple years now, it's been a couple cycles, every time the job's been open, it's been, is it time for Jeff Brohm? They asked him in 2018, and he had only been at Purdue for a couple of years at that point, and he didn't feel right even interviewing, so he turned it down. And then this time around, I think they probably all got in a room and said, if anybody says a name other than Jeff Brohm, I'm going to throw a can of soup at your face. We're not doing this. This is Jeff Brohm. We have to make this happen. The Louisville Athletic Department has been in such flux the last, it's 3 to 4 years. It's been crazy there. They need some kind of stability and some kind of good news for the fans that they're going to wrap their arms around. And look, outside of that, Jeff Brohm's a pretty darn good football coach, and the Big Ten's about to get way harder. Jumping into your alma mater in the ACC right now is a really smart move on his part.
Yeah, I mean, I think everybody involved is happy. I mean, everybody directly affected by this outside of Purdue fans, obviously. They're the ones that are down in the dumps today, and now that's another job that, opens up, and the avalanche effect of the coaching carousel continues on now, and we'll reach further into the Big Ten. But, as far as Louisville's concerned, it was, a match that was in the making for quite some time, as you pointed out. And I don't think you could be any more thrilled than you are today, outside of, just the fact that you had to have this change occur. And you're like, okay, in this case, it was a little bit more unique because this was a fan base and a program and a head coach where, like, it all just seemed a bit disjointed, right? Like, it just sort of felt like it needed to end. And this was like probably the, outside of the Purdue part of it, but for everybody else, it's like the most natural, like, changing of the guard, and probably most welcomed changing of the guard for the parties involved, as you could really draw up in what is usually kind of a bloody, mean-spirited sort of carousel at times where, here's Louisville, and had a year where it was very all over the place, some good, some bad, some ugly, certainly. And, obviously it was about time for Satterfield and company to part ways. They decided to do that, and in comes Coach Brohm, and I think that worked out really well for the Cardinals. And now for the Boilermakers, it's a question of where they go. But yeah, I mean, for Louisville, good hire, and I think this will be very interesting to see how he does in the ACC. As Paul points out, that's not like a league with a real wrecking ball right now. Although Florida State's starting to climb those charts again. Clemson needs to figure some things out. They're still Clemson, though. We were sitting there talking about them having bad years, winning 10-plus games,
Yep.
So it's like they're not that down compared to most everybody else. And then we'll see as far as the rest goes. North Carolina rattles the cage from time to time, obviously. They're a dangerous team and very, well-established program. So the ACC just got better, I think. Louisville got better, and we'll see what Purdue does.
So that's the big story from earlier. There are others still out there. Last night, by the way, in Las Vegas, they had a new group of Hall of Famers. I'm going to have that list for you a little bit later in the show. We're not going to use it now because there's so many moving parts, but there were a lot of great names, including, as we mentioned yesterday, names like Marvin Jones and Roy Williams, even Andrew Luck, and a few others. So, two different decisions today coming down in the next 30 minutes or so. One of them is the Frank Harris announcement, which is not in any way, shape, or form, which gives away the answer, attached to anything UTSA. This is an announcement put on with donors and others who will be there for his announcement. The UTSA quarterback who can come back for one more year, who's dynamic, and really in a lot of different ways, almost like a Heisman Trophy winner for a lot of other things UTSA has done. He makes that announcement. It appears he's coming back, so Andy Everett will join us at 4:30 on that. And then also a legacy name in Baylor football, Lagway. DJ Lagway from Willis High School, a dynamic five-star dual-threat quarterback, will make his announcement on who he will commit to. I looked around today. I know that Baylor's obviously at least is in the discussion, but it appears, am I right, that Florida and USC, among a couple of others, might be the ones where he might pull that trigger today?
I haven't paid attention as closely as probably some others on our boards, but I have not had one single second of a thought of DJ Lagway committing to Baylor during his entire recruitment. This means nothing to me as a guy who covers Baylor. I mean, it does. Don't get me wrong. He's a legacy guy, but I mean, in terms of me thinking like he could say I'm committing to Baylor, right, that has not crossed my mind a single time. So I'm not in that camp of believing this will have any effect on them other than they'll just have to put a red X through another quarterback target. But I've seen no indication to believe that this is something that I need to be all that caught up in. You know what I mean?
No, the reason I brought it up is he's a five-star, ranked as the number 2 quarterback in the class of 2024, and I never thought he'd end up at Baylor.
Yeah, no, you just mentioned Baylor, like the fact that he's a legacy, so that's why I mentioned that part of it. But yeah, I mean, for some other program out there, this is going to be a really big deal. He's a really good player, and I'm really interested to see where he does pledge, because that'll obviously have a domino effect on other top quarterback recruits, and it'll fill up a spot, and then then, that'll lead to, things happening elsewhere as a result of that. But, yeah, I mean, in terms of the Baylor connection, I don't think we're going to be talking about that very much.
Going to Florida would be very interesting for him with Jaden Rashada coming in this year to Florida's class and then him next year. Now, look, it's kind of Quinn Ewers, Arch Manning, and that's what everybody does. You set up that, like, eventual quarterback battle with the young guys to see who's going to be the guy and who's going to transfer out, or who are both going to transfer out. I mean, it's such a weird thing, but nobody's really afraid of that anymore. They're just like, let's go and dive right in.
Yeah, and he's an elite player, a hell of a quarterback at Willis. And there are forecasts of various rivals in 247, whatever. I've seen anything from USC, but Florida seems to be at least a lean. And quite frankly, good luck to him and the announcement that he's going to make. Now, we've given you the story about Jeff Brohm. That's the one that today was the big story in college football when we opened up the day. How about Sonny Dykes? Sonny Dykes leading TCU to that unbeaten regular season into the Big 12 championship game, and he has agreed to a new contract, rewarding him, of course, for what the adrenaline rush he gave to the program. His contract has been extended for 1 year through 2028, and according to sources, this is an article from Pete Thamel, ESPN, indicated his pay will be boosted to near the top levels of the Big 12. For example, Mike Gundy, I think, has the best contract at $7.5 million a year.
Well, he's done something that only one other team in the Big 12 has done, and that's get a team to the playoffs. So absolutely, he's earned to that raise.
Yeah, I mean, that's a big jump up. I'm sure they weren't expecting to make that as quickly as they're making it, but they're going to be raking in some big CFP cash, right? They're mopping up all of the positive PR that money can't buy, and I think he's well earned that, making history, and in so many ways for TCU. The one thing, just not winning that Big 12 title. I do think that, like, ultimately you do want to be in the CFP more than anything, especially in this 4-team era. But that not having a Big 12 title for this year, I think, is going to sting. For the players more so than probably our memories will even, go back to, because we'll move on along and focus more on what happens for them in the playoff and focus on what happens with Kansas State in their matchup with Alabama. But to have a team go undefeated in the regular season and not have a conference title to show for it, that's just a killer blow. So hopefully they can make some noise in the playoff. I don't think many people are giving them any chance against Michigan, just in the general sort of opinion world. There's a lot of, thoughts about, Michigan and Georgia or Michigan, Ohio State. And I don't think a whole lot of people are thinking the Frogs have much of a chance. So I'm so ready to see that game unfold. But, yeah, he's very deserving. That's not a surprise he got a bump. And, yeah, he's making history.
Yeah, great question, by the way, in a poll. And I don't know what the other conferences, like a Michigan, Ohio State, they don't want the other guy to ever be successful. Alabama, Auburn, they never want the other person to be successful. You have rivalries within the Big 12, obviously. But you wonder of the Big 12 fan base, because of what they as a group went through in the fall of the summer of 2021, the recovery in fall of 2021, and then even some of the unknown when USC, UCLA popped. How many Big 12 fans want TCU to win the semifinal game?
I think, that probably is a thumbs up from a majority of the schools, but in this area, no, that's a no-go for me. If I'm looking at it from a Baylor perspective, I understand why it's important for them to do so, but I think you've got to root against them because of just the rivalry. But
you're talking about Baylor fan base, right?
From the Baylor perspective, from the Baylor perspective, I think that, like I said, most Big 12 fan bases are probably rooting for them. Oklahoma and Texas probably aren't. Because they're just petty like that. And I think if it was reversed, we'd be the same way. Like, no, we don't want to see Oklahoma and Texas win a playoff game on their way out if you're looking at it from the Big 12 side of things. So, yeah, I think if you're a Kansas fan, you probably want TCU to win, right? If you're an Iowa State fan, why not? Like, what does it really affect you all that much? But if you're Baylor or, like, Tech, even, I don't know.
There's the jealousies involved. Yeah.
Well, and it's just, you don't want them to have that hanging over your head on the recruiting trail of, like, we want a playoff game.
Do you think TCU fans were excited when Baylor won the Big 12 title?
No, absolutely not.
No. And so there's a little bit of that. It's just a question I had to throw out there.
I would think that for Tech and Baylor fans, TCU being in the CFP is like flossing. You know that it's beneficial to you as a whole, but doesn't mean that you want to do it every day. You know, like
That's why you should go to Stonewood Dental.
Exactly. So it's just, I don't know. I'm sure they're like, okay, we know this is good for the conference. We know, but would rather not have to deal with it because.
Yeah, I just think that would be fun to watch, and we'll probably get more into that at another time.
I've got another
By the way,
perspective.
speaking of another team, go ahead.
If you are those schools as well in this era of expansion, do you want that school that's based in Fort Worth, that's a top 25-ish market, that is a Texas brand that has a lot of success? Do you really want them going and adding all this stuff to their resume so when the Big Ten goes sniffing around again for a Texas rep, or if another conference is poking around? I think TCU's at the top of your list, is it not? I mean, it's got to be of the Big 12 selections.
Yeah,
it has to be right there near the top. Maybe you say Kansas instead because of basketball, but I think TCU with the DFW. I mean, that's the school that we looked at. Like, if the Big Ten were to go into Texas, where would they go? They'd have to go to basically TCU. They'd have to steal A&M or Texas from the SEC. So I'm just saying, like, down the road, long scope vantage point. I think that's another down the road reason why you might not want them to go win a playoff game.
Will be interesting to see how their attendance changes because of this year. You get people get excited when a team starts to win. That's a normal human instinct or whatever reaction. So, but also here's another note. And Paxton on the chat room sent this to me. We don't have this to show you, but he sent this per bookies.com. TCU right now is the current favorite to get Hudson Card from Texas. Other teams on the list include Notre Dame, Wisconsin, Kentucky, and UTSA. UTSA is about to get their quarterback back, and Frank Harris is going to make that announcement most likely in the next 15 to 20 minutes. So that's interesting. And that's from bookies.com. Yeah. Paxton, thanks for sharing that with me. That's just a little nugget to throw out there.
Nothing should surprise you, although I would think that Sonny Dykes feels pretty good considering the guy he thought his backup quarterback is sitting in New York right now. That was what it was in August. Now, things changed, and you just don't change the hot hand. But if he felt confident enough to give Chandler Morris the job over Max Duggan before the season started, I would think he's probably pretty confident in Chandler Morris going into the offseason.
Well, there's nothing wrong with having two good quarterbacks, and they proved that this year. Now, Craig?
Yeah, I mean, he's going to have a lot of schools to pick from, including Notre Dame and TCU, as you mentioned. I think that'd obviously be a really good pickup. We did a segment, didn't have much time to plan for it, but Hudson Card, that segment we talked about quarterbacks, I mean, he would definitely, compared to the way I talked about him yesterday, probably be higher up than I gave him, than I placed him. Like, I debated it more last night and actually sat around and kind of looked into it. And, yeah, I mean, he's definitely high up on the quarterback portal rankings. And so whoever gets him is going to be getting a really good player who's got more than a year to play. I mean, I think that's the important thing, too. But TCU, that's not something I really considered was him staying in the conference, but that would make some sense even with what they have on campus. I mean, is Chandler Morris better than Hudson Card? I don't know that. I have no idea if that's the case, and I'd bank on no right now. So you do what you can to get the best players on the field. But, yeah, it's a good problem for Sonny Dykes to potentially have, but this obviously has a little bit more to play out.
All right, so Jim Leonhard, defensive coordinator, interim head coach at Wisconsin, last night posted this somewhat late in the day that it has meant the world to me to be able to pour my heart and soul into UW football program the last 7 years, discussions with Luke Fickell, etc., my family. I will remain the defensive coordinator through the bowl game. Now, remember, leave that up for a second, Garrett, if you don't mind. Remember, there was a thought that he was going to stay with them. Well, he is through the bowl game, but no longer a part of the staff after the conclusion of the 22 season. It has been an honor to coach these young men. Thank you to all fans who supported us along the way on Wisconsin. So that brought some speculation. The Packers in the NFL have been calling for him for quite some time. He kind of cut his teeth on defense with Dave Aranda when he was at Wisconsin. Wisconsin, of course, now he's available. Baylor is looking for a defensive coordinator. Can they afford a Jim Leonhard? Is he interested in Baylor? Could he now be a candidate at Purdue? That wasn't a part of the speculation last night because it wasn't a story yet. So Jim Leonhard is going to be in the market, and maybe he just sits back for a year. I don't know.
Yeah, I would think that coming to coach defense for Dave Aranda might be on the list last if all those other things don't happen. But I do think, look, the Packers are going to fire Joe Barry in the offseason. I think that is probably going to happen. Their defense has been pretty putrid this year for the most part. And when they hired Joe Barry the first time, he was their second choice after Jim Leonhard. So, because Jim Leonhard eventually wanted to get the head coaching job at Wisconsin. Now, unless, again, Luke Fickell springboards to Ohio State sooner than we would think or leaves, Wisconsin's probably locked up for a few years. So Jim Leonhard has to find a new thing. I wonder if he goes to the NFL. Some coaches don't want to do that, but I do think the Packers would be job one. And look, if the Purdue head coaching job, if he's a candidate for that one, then, maybe that one's out there too.
Yeah, I hadn't started to consider Purdue candidates, but it would make sense if they take a long look at him for sure. But yeah, I think he's going to be highly attractive to some NFL. So, I think he's going to pretty much be able to do what he wants to do, right? Yep. NFL, college, DC, head coach, depending on, like Purdue or whatever else may be out there still at this point. But yeah, it's fun to play fantasy booker. And if you're in a different world, if you're a Baylor fan, DJ Lagway is about to commit to you, and you're about to hire Jim Leonhard as defensive coordinator. But I don't think that that's going to happen on either front. Certainly not on the first part. And in the second part, even with a previous relationship or, knowing Dave Aranda, I feel like there's probably too many other, big opportunities out there for him to make his way to Waco. But he's going to be a really attractive candidate for a lot of different teams at different levels, and somebody's going to get a good one for sure.
So there's that story, and I don't know what Jim Leonhard's going to do, but he has the options, and I'm sure his phone was blowing up as soon as they made the decision with Luke Fickell.
Definitely didn't surprise me that he's leaving Wisconsin, though. Everybody wants that fun, like I said, fantasy booker of everything works out and he stays on even with Fickell coming in, but it never really works out well that way. So no surprise on that front.
Colorado and the prime effect. Craig, you brought this up on their followers and all of that. They actually put this out earlier today. Online revenue at $49,800, highest single-day merchandise sales ever. Down at the bottom, impressions, 42+ million, 173,000 new followers. So it was what we brought up yesterday during Off the Radar with Craig's segment, and then all of the interviews and people talking about him. A very well-done graphic, almost an ad, really, with Deion Sanders and what they call the prime effect.
Well, he's a brand unto himself, and when was the last time you thought about, if you're a college football fan, when was the last time you really thought about Colorado?
Been a while.
If it wasn't for Laviska Shenault and Steven Montez and a handful of others like Jarek Broussard before he ended up at Michigan State, basically all the Texas offensive guys that have played there the last few years, if it wasn't for them, I wouldn't have thought about them since they left the Big 12, basically.
Yeah.
Last night, Rashawn Salaam was posthumously honored by the National Football Foundation, and that was one of the few times you probably would have thought about them as well.
Yeah, obviously I'm saying that somewhat in jest. I've thought about Colorado, but, to answer Paul's question, no, I don't. Nobody's sitting around thinking about Colorado football outside of their fan base because there hasn't been reason to. And so he's already, they're getting some of their money's worth already just based on the social media side of things. Now, it drives me insane sometimes how much the world seems to revolve around social media to almost a weird point. But that is a big part of, programs being able to see kind of where their brand is and their value is, and that's how they make impressions on potential future athletes and students. It's a big part of the world, even though I think it's sometimes there's too much emphasis placed on it. But in this scenario and in this case, that's massive for Colorado. That's why you hired the guy. Yep. Part of why you hired the guy. Now, he's got to win games ultimately like every other coach that's hired. But the off-the-field part of it, it's big thumbs up all the way around right now. And I'm feeling like Deion's got the world by the you-know-whats right now, and I'm really curious to see how far he can take this thing for however long he's there, because I don't think he's going to be there in 5 years. I don't know if he'll even be there in 3. But these first couple, how he does, it's going to be I'm glad they've got cameras to document it, because one way or the other, this is Deion. This isn't just like any other Hard Knocks series. This is Deion coming into the Colorado program and trying to flip the script in every way imaginable. So this is going to be –
it's a fixer-upper thing.
Yeah, it's going to be great television for sure.
One thing about him is no one promotes himself better. Nobody is more of an entertainer, although there's a handful of others. I think even this, as he said at his press conference, has kind of almost made him take a deep breath and kind of realize what he's doing. A couple of more notes. This is from Michael Davis in the chat room. As a Texas Tech fan, I'm not happy about it with TCU winning, but I'll be rooting for the Frogs. Dykes and Riley are Texas Tech alums, so I want to see them have success. That's a great chat, Michael. Thank you very much. And others, of course. Someone said, why would it be petty for Texas and Oklahoma to not want TCU to win it, but not with Texas Tech and Baylor?
Oh, well, it's definitely petty.
Yeah, it's petty.
I think anybody's not saying that.
I said this a few months ago, the only realm of the world that pettiness is okay is in sports fandom. Right? It's the only
Are you happy Aaron Judge today signed back with the Yankees?
I mean, not really, but I was kind of hoping for San Francisco so they'd be sad, but it didn't happen. So, got to worry about him hitting home runs and, against the Red Sox 18 times a year, if not the playoffs too. So, worried about it. Yeah. So, again, it's pettiness, but it's not bitter. It's just, I don't like it. It's fine.
Jake Spavital, remember him, the Texas State head coach who was fired, is now the offensive coordinator with Cal. You talk about a program that needs some goose and adrenaline. They're one of them. I saw the responses here from people. Did they not see what he did at Texas State? Jake Spavital is going to be a coordinator somewhere if he's not a head coach, and so he is now at California.
How many people saying that know the situation at Texas State?
Probably not.
Yeah. It's not great. It's not like it's just some mild step down from the higher Texas schools. Like, it's a little bit of a mess over there from all indications. So, I don't think it's just as simple as, he didn't do well at Texas State, so he doesn't deserve a coordinator job. The last we saw him before he kind of dipped into this, he was one of the hottest coordinators in the country once upon a time. Mm-hmm. So maybe it's more the job he was at and less about him. But, they're not hiring him as a head coach. They're hiring him for what he's best known for. So I think it's a fine move by Cal.
Yeah.
From Justin, go ahead.
And look, he employed that, all transfer strategy pretty much. And I think part of that had to do with the fact that it is a bit of a mess, and it's probably pretty hard to recruit to Texas State right now. If let's say you are choosing between Texas State, UTSA, and North Texas, right? Those are your top three. And you take 3 official visits to them because they're, I guess, would be comparable schools. You go to Texas State and you see what's going on there compared to the other two places.
Right.
Although
North Texas is looking for a new head coach.
But, as far as their facilities and everything else,
that, yes.
You compete with that right now? Texas State can't.
All right. Yeah, that's a great point. Justin McGuffey, then we break and come back with Jesse Kurtz. He's the color analyst for Air Force Academy football, and also he's an anchor for the Mountain West Conference Network. If TCU wins the national title and plays Deion in week 1, which they're scheduled to play Colorado, they will hit 15 million viewers in that game next year, sometime most likely in early September.
Yeah, so somebody jokingly asked, will that game be in prime time? Because I pointed out that Colorado also plays Matt Rule in Nebraska in week 2. So that's going to be very interesting for those, first-year head coaches and the old Colorado-Nebraska rivalry. I just don't know how many people would have predicted to be Deion versus Rule. But they play TCU, and that's going to be a tough first challenge for Prime and company. But I do think that we'll get a great audience just depending on, like somebody said, will that Nebraska game be in prime time? And I'm like, yeah, probably. I don't know what the rest of the week 2 schedule is or, week 1 with TCU, what the rest of that schedule looks like. But he's definitely going to get Colorado into prime time a lot more than they were the last several years, probably more in maybe 1 year than they've been in the last 5 or 6.
Yeah.
I would definitely think that there's some consideration given to that, all jokes aside.
Jacob DS50, I will ask our next guest, Jesse Kurtz, about realignment, Boise State. Idea by Rob Maxey, Dr. Rob Maxey and his partners to have a business that what they do is MRIs. There are places that have MRI machines. That's what they do. That's their specialty. And on top of that, the machine that they committed to, the state-of-the-art MRI machine that I have been in 3 or 4 times is just like the ones you would want to go to get the absolute elite evidence of what might be bothering you with a muscle, a ligament, or something else. I'm not good about getting in those tubes. I can't even think about it. but I've been inside of their MRI machine, and there's something about the way it's set up. It's something about the techs and specialists, those who help you out before you go in, that just makes it a lot smoother and more comfortable for me. Also, what makes it comfortable for me and for you is the $497 limit. $497 or less every single time, no matter how many times you need to go back to Ideal MRI, and they will help you through the process of filing insurance and trying to get you even more off of that price of $497. Remember, that's the upper number. The average is $1,100 for most around the country, so that's what they do as well. Easy to get to, you don't have 15 people waiting in this big, massive room. You walk in, pretty soon you're going in, and I've done it 3 or 4 times, and it is fantastic because you find out what hurts, and you do it for a lot less money than anywhere else at idealmri.com.
In our logo and advertising, we say we are people that you can count on. What does that mean? It starts with providing a quality vehicle and quality service at a fair price. But it also means we do what we say we will do, and we treat people fairly with respect. It starts by hiring great people, good local folks who work hard with a caring attitude. Our employees are the real reason we are people that you can count on. Put us to the test and see for yourself that at Richard Carr Motors, we are people you can count on.
Texas Farm Bureau Insurance has protected fellow Texans with auto, home, health, and life insurance since 1952. With more than 260,000 square miles of land and 27 million people, that's a lot to cover. Whether you're wrangling cattle or wrangling kids, we're proud to protect Texans in all Texan ways of life.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
You want to know why Stonewood Dental is so successful? Listen to what happy customers have to say.
It's pleasant. It's different than any other dentist office. I really feel like they care. And it's not that you're here for 2 hours waiting on someone to take care of you. It's quick and easy, and I bring my kids, and my kids love being here too. They really love the treasure box. Staff is really nice and accommodating, real friendly. You feel more like home. It's not sterile looking. Everybody has their own personalized rooms with decorations and decor, and they'll even have a blanket for you when it's cold. I've recommended people to actually come here, and they are patients now. I really love it here. It feels like family.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, hand or wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trusts. Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
Pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears.
How did Edward Jones become one of the biggest financial service companies in the world? By not acting that way. Financial strategies, one-on-one advice, it's a big difference. And that's why Brad Wilson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, makes sense of investing. Experience the difference for yourself. Brad Wilson, 250 Sharon Drive in Woodway, 254-776-4337. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Three Nations Brewing Company has 16 different beers on draft with a new beer every Friday. It also offers 2 air-conditioned tap rooms, a large indoor beer hall, a second-floor mezzanine offering a great overview of the brewing company and equipment and patio where you can relax under the shade. Plus, you can now experience the new Three Nations Beer Garden Grill on our shaded patio. Grab a cold beer and enjoy a bite from our freshly prepared and delicious menu. Street tacos, quesadillas, freshly cooked burgers and dogs, and veggie burgers too. Nachos and and so much more, all prepared and cooked on site. So come visit the award-winning Three Nations Brewing Company on East Vandergrift off I-35 in Carrollton.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
By the way, National Pearl Harbor Remembrance Day, December the 7th, when all of us who was alive back then, a lot of our family members or friends and relatives, of course, a huge day and a horrible day and a memory for our country, but today, December the 7th.
I went there this summer.
Yeah,
it was
you did.
unbelievable.
Yes, you did. I went there back when I was on my way from Japan back to Texas when I was before a senior year in high school. Jesse Kurtz, I always say that with a college program. Air Force Academy color analyst and also an anchor for the Mountain West Conference Network joins us on 365 Sports. Jesse, thank you very much for your time. What's been the reaction about the bowl game with Air Force playing Baylor?
Oh, excited. I mean, there are so many guys that are at the Academy football players I'm speaking of that when the matchup was announced, were literally jumping for joy. When we get a chance to go on a national stage like a bowl game, you want to play, the best possible teams that you can. And Baylor, given the history and the success that they've had and the names that have come through there, I mean, that's a name. That's a national name. So when the fellas heard that it was going to be Baylor, it was just sheer joy and excitement and ready to get to work because they know the challenge that awaits them when they get down to Fort Worth to take on the Baylor Bears.
Well, you also have a good amount of Texans on the team, including a couple of Central Texans, Ben Britton and Wesley Ndego, who's your starting tackle, are from Waco.
Yeah, absolutely. And those are two of the guys that were really excited. And Ben Britton hasn't played a lot, but Ben Britton has when he's got on the field, he's made his presence known through an 80-yard touchdown pass. I believe it was his first pass of the season, but nonetheless came in to spell the starter who was injured for a play, went out there and tossed a dime for a touchdown. So we're excited to have Ben Britton on the team. Trey Taylor, also a guy that is from Texas, certainly excited. He's a starting safety, in my opinion, one of the top safeties in the Mountain West. So there are a number of guys, and Texas has always been a very fertile recruiting ground for really everybody, but for the Air Force Academy because of the patriotism that comes out of the great state of Texas, to have guys from that area be interested in raising the right hand, serving, and then playing football at the Air Force Academy. We're very blessed to go back down to Texas and play football in front of those great fans.
So, Jesse, Troy Calhoun's been around for a while now, and looking at what could potentially occur with an Air Force win, they'd be back-to-back years with 10 wins, be back-to-back bowl wins, 3 out of the last 4 years with both of those marks as well. A program that's had a lot of success, but what would you just kind of describe the state of the program as right now? What's kind of the theme, if you will, the big takeaway in looking at Air Force from the 20,000-foot view?
Yeah, this is as good of a stretch as this program has had in decades, and maybe ever. Because if you take the COVID season out of the equation, it could have it has a chance to have 3 straight 10-win seasons. Because at a 10-win season in 2019, capping it off with a win against Washington State in the Cheez-It Bowl. 2020, we all know about that. There was only 6 games played. Take that out. And then last year, another 10-win season, a win against Louisville in the ServPro First Responder Bowl, and then this year, 9 wins. This is a program that continues to really set the bar high, and that starts with Troy Calhoun. I think for your money, he is the most brilliant football mind in the country. And I don't think it's anywhere close. Troy Calhoun has been widely thought of as a brilliant mind, a great offensive mind at the NFL level, has had plenty of opportunities. He's coached in the NFL as an offensive coordinator for the Texans, has been lured in some ways to go back to the NFL, but he's very proud of what he's done here at the Academy and has stayed. So with what he does on game days and the preparation and the type of guys he brings into this program, that's really the secret sauce, having the right people. And This is a program that's got a chance to, I think, 5 straight wins over a Power 5 opponent. If they were, able to play Baylor tight and get a win, beat Colorado in 19, beat Washington, then beat Louisville, then beat Colorado this year, and now a chance to take on the Baylor Bears. So great opportunity, and it's coming at a great time for Air Force because this program is really at the pinnacle of where it's been over the last couple of decades.
The history of the coaches at Air Force, Bill Parcells was for a year, 3-8. Ken Hatfield's name because of what he did at Arkansas and elsewhere. We had a losing record, but the continuity from Fisher to Berry to Troy Calhoun is nearly 40 years. How much is that? How just don't see that much anymore?
Well, I think that to your point, I think that's a big reason for Air Force's success. Look, in modern college football now, the turnover that you have at the coaching level and then the player level, it's hard to gain a whole lot of traction. And I believe only Iowa has continuity that is longer than the Air Force Academy with Hayden Fry and Kirk Ferentz. You got Fisher DeBerry that came in here in 1984, stayed for almost a quarter of a century all the way until 2007, and then Troy Calhoun takes over, and he's in his 16th season. It takes a special person to have success there. It takes a person that embraces the mission, embraces that, this is football is secondary. The mission is always going to be first. Academics are going to be second. And then, you throw in football. Someone that embraces that and really is able to communicate that to recruits and saying, here's what we're here for, here's what is important, and here's how we're going to win. If you don't embrace those things, it's incredibly difficult to have success. Now, if you have someone that comes in like a Troy Calhoun that's walked through those shoes, he's an alum, played football there, was an assistant coach there, and then kind of went out and did his thing as an assistant coach in the college ranks and then the NFL ranks. But he knows exactly what it takes to succeed there, knows what those kids are going through. So that consistency of when he goes in and tells mom and dad, your son is going to be in great hands, and here are the things that are going to be expected of him, and here are the great things and the great hurdles that he'll be able to clear, and then deliver on that and stay all 4 years, well, that speaks to something. Now you're getting kids that come back because that, you know what, he's going to be here. He believes in this. I've heard great things. So that consistency, I think, is right at the top of reasons that the Air Force Academy has had such a great run under Troy Calhoun.
Jesse Kurtz, color analyst for the Air Force Academy football team and Mountain West Conference network anchor with us on 365 Sports.
Jesse, I hope this isn't too inside radio for our listeners here, but considering that you have not had a game where Air Force has thrown double-digit passes, have you ever sat in the booth and said, man, this thing is dragging on?
No, and you know what? It's funny. Okay, I'll answer this two ways. One, no, but there are times that I go back home and I have two young boys, a 17-year-old and a 15-year-old, and they give me that, man, no passes again. So I get what you're saying, but I'll tell you, our games go so fast. It's not uncommon for one of our games to be over in under 3 hours, 2 hours and 57 minutes, because the clock moved. There have been plenty of games where I'll give you an Air Force Army instance. We played at Army, and Army took the opening possession and went 14 minutes without giving us the ball. And then we took the ball and then went about 7 minutes. The first half was over in about 42 minutes. So games move by fast, and I've come very accustomed to the way that we run an offense. But I see what you're saying, and there are times, yes, where the variety is not there. So we look for that variety in the opponent. So we'll look to you guys to wow us with some things that you do, and then we'll just lull you to sleep. How does that work?
That sounds good to me.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. A big part of that rushing attack, I go over box scores and recaps every weekend, and always at the top of the rushing statistics basically every week is Brad Roberts. And obviously a part of that is just what Air Force does running the football as much as they do, but back-to-back incredible years for him, 1,600-plus yards, 15 touchdowns this year, similar numbers last year. I don't know much about Brad Roberts, but I feel like I've seen his name 100 times. What can you tell us about him and just how impactful he is for this Air Force program?
Well, I'll tell you the best part about Brad Roberts, and the statistics speak for themselves. He's the single season rushing leader ever at Air Force. That says something, right? I mean, that's all they do is run the football for for 3+ decades. To be the all-time leader in a season, I think speaks for itself. He would be the all-time career rushing leader if not for the COVID season. And you think about the great running backs that have come through here, the great quarterbacks that have run the football. I mean, D. Dallas right at the top of that list, the Heisman Trophy finalist. The Morgan brothers from Texas are two of the all-time greats, passing them. He broke Bo Morgan's all-time record of 100-yard games in a career earlier this year. If you take the COVID season out, if you would have given him 12 games, he would have blown past the record, I believe, by about week 4. So that tells you how many times he has been very effective. But two things that will stand out about Brad Roberts. One, his dependability. I've never seen the guy really take himself out of a game. He carried the ball 300 times last year. He'll be on pace to do that again this year. Think about the amount of hits that you take between the tackles. And Brad Roberts is 5'11", 210 pounds, but he's very smart in the way he runs the football. He always attacks the soft shoulder, so he doesn't take on big hits. So to have a guy that is that small, but that tough and that dependable, it's a natural-born leader. And a guy that came from the Denver suburban area, not very highly recruited out of Ralston Valley High School. Really, it came down to North Dakota or Air Force. He wants to be a pilot, so the natural progression would be I'll go play at Air Force. But just one of the best leaders and most humble football players I've ever seen. You put your name in the likes of Dallas and Morgan and Chad Hall, who is a coach with the Buffalo Bills right now, some of the all-time greats. You would never know it by spending a day with him or walking past him on the street. Say, that guy's a big-time Division I football player. It's really something to watch, and I'm really proud to have been a part of this program when he has been a superstar.
As you know, Brigham Young played Baylor in 2021 in Waco. Then this year they played him double overtime, whatever it was, up in, obviously, in Provo. And now they're about to join the conference with Baylor. Air Force and Baylor play in, 10, 15 days or so. And they're already on the schedule to play each other in non-conference, in 24 and 27 as well? Kind of a little preview here?
Yeah. When those games were scheduled, when that came down the pike, I was like, wow, this is great. A chance to go visit a new place, take on a wonderful program that's had all kinds of success. So to move that up at a neutral site in a bowl setting, I'm super pumped up. I mean, this could be a really fun little 3-game series that these two get to play. And I believe one of them is in Waco and one's back here at the Academy, right?
Yep, and 27 will be at Colorado Springs. Yes, sir.
Okay, so, and, we had Colorado play here at the Air Force Academy. Aaron Rodgers and the Cal Bears played here in 2004. Oklahoma's been here. Notre Dame's been here a couple of times. It's not often, though, that we get a team with the national brand and the football prowess that Baylor has coming to here. So look forward to a trip down to Waco and a return trip back here to Colorado Springs by the Bears after we get after it here in the bowl game down in Fort Worth.
Jesse, it's great to have you on. So today's Pearl Harbor Day, which obviously we always want to remember that. Army, Navy, Saturday. Give me a choice. Who do you think's going to win that game?
You're asking me to pick between the two people that we struggle to like on the football field, but we really like off the football field, right? Yeah, I'm going to go Army, and I'll go Army because I just think that Army really feels snake bit from last year. I think they have a score to settle. I think they're the better team. I really like Ken Niumatalolo, the head coach of Navy. But if you're asking me today who I think, after seeing both teams this year, and I mean the both teams for the last dozen years, I'll go with Army because I think there's just too much that has lingered from last year that has really been hammered into the Black Knights. I'll go with Army in a game by 10 points.
Yeah, in fact, last year was an upset after Navy had that great run, and then all of a sudden Army kind of turned it a little bit. Ahmad Bradshaw, who was the quarterback for Army when they broke the 14-year streak, will be our guest tomorrow to discuss Army-Navy. So, I mean, I honestly mean this, and I think a lot of fans have always thought this way, Jesse, is that when there's always this discussion about realignment, there is always a little bit part of the conference or the fan base at Baylor that always thinks, man, it would be great to have the military academies as a part of a conference. That's unrealistic, but there's that kind of respect to be able to have everybody together, and I think it would be awesome. I know that's not going to happen, but it sure would be awesome.
Well, the fact that we do get to play each other every year is something that we're blessed with those opportunities, and to get those kids that are special human beings and ones that we're all grateful have raised their right hand to serve, whether you're at the Army at West Point or at the Naval Academy or at the United States Air Force Academy, to get to see these kids compete twice a year and really get after it is a blessing and something I'm thankful for, and I appreciate you guys and your well wishes to all three service academies, because you're right. These are special kids, and anytime we get to celebrate who they are off the football field, I think is a great day.
Our Air Force won the Commanders Cup, right? Because they beat both. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, first time since 2016. And I'll tell you, while we would like to have the Commanders-in-Chief Trophy in Colorado Springs each and every year, Service Academy football, and I'm talking about the three service academies collectively, has never been in a better spot than it's been, because there was a time that Air Force just mowed down Army and Navy for years, and then Navy had a resurgence under Paul Johnson, and then they dominated this series. And then, Army came back to the forefront with Jeff Monken, and it's been back and forth, and it's a coin flip whenever these two teams meet or when we meet them. So it's great to have these two teams in any given year are top 40 teams in the country, and that's great. This year, both Army and Navy have had a down year, but there's no reason to think that they won't have a bounce back. And Service Academy football, as far as being on a national scale and having teams that can really compete against anyone, anywhere, it's in a very good place.
Has there been much discussion because of the conference with everyone else expanding and realigning and people going here and there? Obviously, there's been some names like Fresno State or San Diego State or even Boise State whose names have been out there. Has that really infiltrated the Mountain West too much?
I mean, it's part of the deal, right? I mean, anytime I think the Mountain West as a whole is very proud when institutions like that get mentioned as, hey, they're the shiny new object that we think we would like to have. I mean, the fact that the Mountain West lifted Utah into a couple of BCS bowl wins over Pitt and Alabama, and then the Pac-12 said, geez, it's a really great team. It's a really great institution, a football team. We should probably think about adding them. TCU, TCU enjoyed great success in the Mountain West, went to BCS bowl games, won conference championships, and lifted themselves into a national brand. And look at where they are now. I'll tell you, there's a lot of pride here in the Mountain West. We watched Utah win a Pac-12 championship while we were at the Mountain West championship in Boise, and super proud of what Kyle Whittingham and the Utes did. Super proud of what Gary Patterson started at TCU and now what Sonny Dykes has done at TCU. We still consider them in some way, shape, or form part of us, and we have fond memories. So to see them do that, and now, there obviously schools in the Mountain West are being talked about of, maybe that would be a good ad. If they're not in those conversations, then we're not doing our job as a league. It's part of the college football world here in 2022, and we'll continue to do our job at the Mountain West office and as the fellow institutions across the league to schedule very high, to try to win those games. And if that ultimately means that they become very attractive to others, then so be it. But we got to do our job first, and if they're being talked about, then we're doing a good job.
Jesse, great to have you on. We'll see you soon. Jesse Kurtz, again, color analyst for the Air Force Academy football team, broadcast and also Mountain West Conference Network anchor. A great segment. I mean, that's so interesting. Brigham Young 21 next year. They're going to join the Big 12. They play back-to-back. Baylor plays them now starting next year. How many times? And then Air Force in Waco in the 2024. In Colorado Springs, one of the most beautiful views you could imagine in 2027. So Baylor's now got this Brigham Young thing hooked to their hip, right, in Utah. They play Utah next year, the Pac-12 champions. And then they play Utah on the road the following year. The same year they play Air Force. So a lot of connections to Colorado, Utah, and that particular part of the mountain region of our country. DJ Lagway is committed to Florida, the 5-star quarterback out of Willis High School. That's not a surprise. And Frank Harris, again, not a surprise, decides he's coming back for one more year, said he wants to lead UTSA into the new conference and into the future. This is 365 Sports. Alan Samuels, Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat, Loop 340 east of 84 in Waco. Some of the things that they have for you right now, including the 2022 Ram Crew Cab, the Crew Cab Lone Star, 1500 Crew Cab Lone Star. Total values of $6,250. First responders get an extra $500 if you are involved in that buy. Big finish sales event continuing. Ram continues to win awards year after year after year. The accolades always are coming in. The 2023 Jeep Grand Cherokee Limited 2-row and 3-row. Total values up to $4,000, and first responders an extra $500. Again, the big finish sales event. And the Chrysler 300, total values again of $4,000, extra $500 for first responders. So right now, the big finish sales event. Best selection of new cars and trucks in Central Texas. In the months of December, the great deals are there. You heard them. Go by and test drive. Go by and find what you need to make it a great holiday season into 2023. At Allen Samuels, Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, Ram, Fiat, Loop 340 east of 84 in Waco.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be a part of the Waco community. We're a small family business right here in Central Texas, and our goal is to bring down the cost of healthcare while maintaining high quality. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important, and unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. That's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through the difficult time. We offer premium MRIs just like a hospital with state-of-the-art technology and specialists, but you'll pay less. Sometimes thousands of dollars less, whether you're using insurance or not. At Ideal MRI, we accept most insurance and there are no hidden costs, even offering financing if that's needed. Everything included in the price, and you'll not get something as a surprise in the mail later on. If you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. They'll know. You can schedule an appointment safely from home online in minutes at idealmri.com or give us a call, 833-IDEAL-MRI, idealmri.com.
Howdy, Chet Garner here, professional guide, searching for bears in the wild. But not just any bears, oh no, a particular kind. With hundreds of thousands roaming freely in the wild, yet still hard to spot unless you know the signs. There they are, Baylor bears. If you're a bear enthusiast or even a bear yourself, join me and let's find some bears in the wild.
Join the expedition at baylor.edu/alumni.
Waco Custom Marketplace is your home for holiday favorites for parties or time with the family, with various specials available while supplies last in store or ordering by phone, including 8 to 10 pound half spiral hams at $4.15 a pound, 12-pound pit hams at $4.35 a pound, 8 to 22-pound bone-in hams for $3.40 a pound, 14 to 16-pound whole raw turkeys at $2.85 a pound, and $4.80 a pound for 9 to 12-pound whole smoked turkeys, 6 to 8-pound mini pit hams for $5.99 a pound. Limit 4 of each item per customer. Call in advance to ensure availability or drop by Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco. Waco Custom Marketplace, your full-service butcher shop for customized orders or cuts of your favorite steaks or beef tenderloin or specially ordered prime rib roast. WacoCustomMarketplace.com.
Automatic Chef Canteen is a full-service micro-market vending and office coffee provider with state-of-the-art vending equipment, a wide variety of products, and offering custom-fitted micro-market vending office coffee solutions for your employee break room. You want a full break room solution and a workplace oasis? Well, Automatic Chef Canteen, locally owned and operated for over 50 years in Central Texas, also includes in-house mechanics on call 24/7 for fast, reliable service and maintenance. Automatic Chef Canteen, 6900 Imperial Drive in Waco, or online at automaticchefcanteen.com.
This is Sikkim 365 Radio. Text us at 254-339-1122. The Sikkim 365 Radio text line is sponsored by Riverbend Liquor and Wine, with the most extensive variety of craft beer in Waco. A hidden gem on Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street.
This 4 o'clock hour opens up with Alexis Cubitt. She writes for the Courier-Journal Sports, covers Louisville. Friend of ours, was an intern back in the day. We've known her for quite some time, and she's done an incredible job with her career. And today, wakes up with the story that Jeff Brohm in Louisville in the reunion. Alexis, thanks for your time. Craig and Paul and Smokey, what's been the reaction? I would think ecstatic in Louisville.
Yeah, I don't know that they could have found a better hire just to kind of win the fan base over. It's been a very interesting past, 4 years. I'm kind of on the latter end of it here, just because obviously this is Satterfield. We now know it's his last year, but the fan base had been, I would say, dwindling with Satterfield here just because of certain events. But I think this is going to be a huge a unifier. I think it's going to bring a lot of people on board. Just because of this hire, and I think you'll see a lot more people come to games again, whereas that was a struggle this year's attendance. But no, I mean, it's been I don't think you could have gotten a better reception from everyone as far as, who they wanted, someone who, has won at the highest level. So yeah, we'll have everything officially unfold over the next couple of days, but as of right now, I mean, I don't think you'll see a sad person in Louisville right now. Well,
he is their favorite son, absolutely, over almost anyone that's been there. Was there really an exhaustive, deep list of candidates, or was it, we better hope Jeff says yes this time when we call him?
Yeah, I don't think so. When we had the presser to announce that obviously Satterfield was leaving, and Deion Branch, who's also a former player, would be coaching the bowl game. At that time, Josh heard the AD had not, according to him and to Jeff Brohm, they had not contacted one another. But the thing is, from my sources and what I've heard, they wanted Brohm since the beginning of the season. And so Satterfield was not given a contract extension, even though he wanted one to stay here. So I think that happening and then him getting the Cincinnati job just opened the door for this reunion to happen. And, the thing is, last time he had only been at Purdue for 2 years. And contrary to maybe how some other people have done things, for him, loyalty is very important. So he didn't want to jump jobs after a short amount of time. So it was going to be a little bit. And then this situation happened where, it sounds like they knew coming into this year that no matter what happened, they were going to try to get him to come in for the 2023 season. So, it was, I don't think there was any doubt, even though they hadn't, quote unquote, had contact, I don't think there was any doubt that they were not going to do everything in their power to get him this time around. And the timing just worked out to where, he established a good enough program at Purdue, took them to the Big Ten Conference Championship this year. I believe that's the first time in Purdue's program history that they've made the conference game. Didn't win it, but I mean, they got there, so that's progress. So, I mean, at a program like that, I don't know how much more you could really ask for. So he, did his time, had some success, and I just think now is a good time for him to come here and, help turn Louisville around.
Alexis, it sounds like the way you put it, all indications are the writing was on the wall that changes were happening at Louisville no matter what. But, us on the outside, hundreds of miles away are just trying to kind of get the pulse of what's going on there. So what was the pulse when Louisville goes on that 4-game winning streak when everybody's like, oh, Satterfield's finally going to go, and then they start winning games in the middle of the season? It was a weird year. How would you kind of sum up that stretch and just the year overall?
Yeah, so he said that it reminded me of this thing that I saw. So what you'll see on Twitter is there's a guy who I would love to have a cup of tea with, who has a Twitter account called Bring Brohm Home. And so, when Louisville had their tough stretch, of course, it picked up steam, Bring Brohm Home. Well, Louisville started winning and did go on that 4-game stretch. And then I think Purdue had kind of a fluky loss, and someone decided to come with the hashtag keep Brohm there. So there was some, I think Satterfield started winning the fan base over a little bit with that stretch of winning, especially when there were reports that had he lost to Virginia, they would have fired him mid-season.
Yeah.
Now, I did have some people that I know refute those claims because nobody, at least nobody was in the boosters or the board, felt like there was anybody on the coaching staff that they trusted to be the interim head coach. Because if you look at it, I mean, Brian Brown is Satterfield's right-hand man. So I can't imagine he would, I feel like in his mind, with just the way that loyalty works among certain people, he wouldn't want the interim job because he would feel like that was betraying, like one of his best friends.
Right.
The other co-DC, Wes McGriff, had just got here. So, he was still learning things about this team. The OC, Lance Taylor, this was his first offensive coordinating job. He was just the run game coordinator at Notre Dame. So there was really no one in a position to be able to be that interim, especially with the stretch that they had. I mean, the next game after Virginia was the bye and then Pitt, which, I mean, we know how things kind of play out now, but at the time, we're thinking, okay, this is going to be the toughest stretch of the schedule, and you want to go through this with an interim? Probably not a good idea. So I don't think there was much belief that he would get fired mid-season. But you start beating Pitt, you beat, 10th ranked Wake Forest, there definitely was some positive momentum. I mean, obviously you run into a, Clemson team at home that had just got embarrassed by Notre Dame. So you kind of take that L and understand that's just what's going to happen. Unless you're South Carolina, apparently.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, I do think that Satterfield did enough to generate some positive momentum and positive feelings within the fan base. But I mean, I just don't think at the end of the day, it was the fit that people wanted. They wanted Brohm the first time around. So there was only so much excitement they were going to give Satterfield. And then, in 2020, they go with 4-7, and he ends up talking to South Carolina about the opening, and that soured some people, and he just never really recovered from that. So I think he did enough to leave people satisfied. But at the end of the day, like, if it was going to come down to it, I think he could have gone undefeated and they still would have been wanting Brohm. So that's just, that's how the things go. But, yeah, it's interesting how everything kind of worked out, especially right now.
Ruben Owens is a megastar running back out of El Campo, Texas, committed to Louisville, committed to Scott Satterfield. I saw a couple of notes earlier that he was trying to kind of see how things shook out, I guess you could say, in Louisville. Have you? I don't know. You haven't talked to Ruben or not, but have you heard anything about the Brohm hiring? Whether that secures Owens to stay in the class of 2023?
I'm not sure about as far as Brohm, but I do know, or at least I saw a report that right after Satterfield had announced that he was going to go to Cincinnati, someone reached out to Ruben Owens' dad, and they said they were still locked in. You kind of have to when you tattoo 502 on your skin. But, from what I'm understanding, the class should still be intact pretty well. I don't think they'll have any immediate decommits, but I'd imagine, Satterfield offers some kids at Cincinnati rather, and they'll try to jump over there.
If I'm an offensive player, with all due respect to anyone else, I want to be able to go and play for Jeff Brohm. If I'm already committed to Louisville, to me, that would only reinforce things with the weapons that he might, and what we've seen him do with even what he's had at Purdue.
Alexis, I know we also see this when coaches leave, but I saw a bunch of former Louisville players really expressing their dislike of Scott Satterfield and happy that he was leaving. Do you think that was a pervasive feeling, or is that some guys with sour grapes?
It's hard to tell. I think those feelings were always there, but they tried to present a united front. One of the tweets I'm guessing you're mentioning was Des Fitzpatrick about how he said something about how Satterfield made them tweet nice things about him after the 2020 South Carolina coaching thing, which is just a weird thing for one grown man to say to another, and then for another grown man to admit later. But like, I don't know. It's a very, I think you can tell a lot about how someone leads the program. And it's not great, especially when you leave because Cincinnati and Louisville are rivalry. Like, that's a rivalry. That's a whole thing. And then them playing in the bowl game against one another. So yeah, I definitely think that those feelings were already there, but I just feel like now that he's gone, people feel a little more emboldened to speak what was their truth. And maybe, they want to keep that united front, but now that he's gone, they don't feel any loyalty to him. But it's not a great look, if I'm being honest, just how things have kind of transpired. Because, you see coaches leave all the time, and it's not necessarily always, a bad situation. Like, you see Jeff Brohm, some of his Purdue players, tweeting out really positive things about him. But it's just the way you go about things. And I think there were some mistakes made during Satterfield's tenure, and definitely some made as far as how this process went with him going to Cincinnati.
Alexis, so now everybody can move on and everybody can go focus on this bowl game. Oh, wait. They're going to go and now face each other. So what's kind of been the reaction to Louisville and Cincinnati in a bowl game after all of this unfolds? It's just perfect timing and maybe not so perfect timing for some others, but wild scenario there.
Yeah, no, and that's the thing about it, because here I am Sunday. We had known that this was going to be the matchup for a couple of days before it was officially announced. I believe the Cincinnati paper had got that information. So here I am, preparing, how we journalists do, to write, stories about the rivalry and the keg of nails, which is what it's called, and some of the history of it. And now you have Louisville's coach going to the quote unquote Ohio rival. And it's like, well, we can scrap out the history because we're making some rivalry memories right now. Let's just get there's a whole bunch of storylines here with it. So yeah, that was very, very interesting to see how that kind of played out. Satterfield has said that he will not be at the game coaching either one of the teams. His main focus right now is to get a staff together and to go out on the recruiting trail. So I believe Terry Combs will be coaching Cincinnati, and then Louisville is actually bringing their Deion Branch, who, again, like I said, mentioned earlier, is a former player, and also just came back this year to Louisville to be the director of player development. And now he's coaching in a bowl game. So it's kind of funny how life works out that way. But the bowl game in general is going to be really interesting because a few of the coaches have already received and accepted job offers at other programs. I'm not sure. It doesn't sound like there are many players who are going to be playing. So, yeah, it's just a very I don't know what's going to happen in 10 days, but they're going to have to put somebody out on the field, and they're going to have some coaches. So will be very interesting to see how that all plays out.
Alexis, you have to get back off the phone because you got a story you have to write. Go ahead, Craig.
Yes. In the last 60 seconds, Alexis, literally since you started answering that last question, Ruben Owens has decommitted from Louisville, posting, that he's decommitted. Basically, that he's opening up his recruitment again and moving on. So,
well, we'll see what happens with he and Brohm. But Alexis, we love you, girl. Thanks for being on whenever you can be. You had a story right there in your lap, and now you got another update on it. So thanks for your time and good luck with it, okay?
Absolutely. Thank you, guys.
That's Alexis Cubitt. She started out working up in the Minnesota area, Paul, am I right? And then she went to West Texas,
and then
she started covering Clemson.
If it was not, I was going to say, if it wasn't for the Ruben Owens thing breaking there, I wanted to ask her, and if we have more time, well, I'm sure we'll have her on again, of course, but I wanted to ask her about her experiences covering DJU with that now, ending and him going into the transfer portal, what her couple years at Clemson were like. Granted, she wasn't there this year, but she was around prior to this year and, got to see some of that unfold. So, yeah, next time we have her on, she'll have a lot to discuss for sure based on both of those programs. But Ruben Owens, that's huge, obviously, 5-star running back, Texas guy, so we knew a little bit more about him. I remember early on in the running before he committed to Louisville, there's a lot of thoughts he could end up at Texas. And, any brand you'd expect to be in the mix for a 5-star running back, and then he commits to Louisville, and it's like, what? But, I think that they had a great pitch for him, and it was a shocker in so many ways, and yet they landed him. It was a big splash, but you always felt like, you wonder if that lasts, right? And then, sure enough, there's a coaching change. Season doesn't go well. This is not a surprise that based on everything that's happened since, he committed and it happened throughout the year, and now this staff change. There's no surprise that he's opening it back up. It's just wild. Happened December, like right before National Signing Day, and obviously there's a second one as well, but that's huge. 5-star running back now back on the market.
Yeah, El Campo High School, a freak of a player. We'll see what happens now that he at least is decommitted. I'm on his page right now. I don't see anything other than
he told
God
Rivals.
has a plan. Okay,
Yeah,
all right,
he told
good.
Rivals.
All right, his nickname's the Unicorn. He's that kind of a freak of an athlete. So it's 4:14 thanks to Alexis Cubitt. Now, a couple of other college football notes here. North Carolina's Phil Longo, part of Mac Brown's staff, is headed to Wisconsin to be their offensive coordinator.
Yeah, that's massive. North Carolina obviously got a lot of headlines because of Drake May and how superb of a quarterback he is and will continue to morph into. But they were very stout offensively. I mean, that was their brand. And, especially early on in the season, it was like, man, this offense is great. This defense stinks. But, he was a big part of, that attack and Drake May's success. And they're going to score points by the boatloads. And that's exciting if you're an offensive prospect who's getting courted by, Luke Fickell in Wisconsin. And now you got Phil Longo joining up. I think that's a hell of a hire for Luke Fickell. And that's going to, I think, be one that's widely, praised by and enjoyed by Wisconsin fans.
Well, Paul Christ is not there anymore because Wisconsin's offense wasn't scoring points. I mean, that's better than Iowa.
They can run the ball,
but they can run the ball. But they needed something. And again, the Big Ten is changing. Like you're going to have to now. Look, Phil Longo's going to have to figure out maybe some air raid type stuff that works in November in Madison. But they're gonna score. And the other thing that Wisconsin couldn't do is they were almost in that LSU under Les Miles thing where you have, of your 22 starters, 21 of them, are pretty darn good, but the one that's not is the guy that you want to be the best, and that's the quarterback. They have not had a good quarterback in quite some time at Wisconsin, and probably not getting him because of that offense, really, based on what you're doing. So this will get and probably a pretty darn good transfer coming in there.
Oh yeah, I would think so. Yep, I would think so. No, that's a great hire for Luke Fickell. That's a great hire for Wisconsin. That definitely spices things up and kind of, you flip the mattress. You kind of freshen things up. They needed some freshening, and that's obviously why you make a coaching change. But I think that's a little extra added freshening. That's definitely going to be. Pleasing news for a lot of the Badgers fans.
Another story in college football is the NCAA is granting any Virginia football player whose eligibility ended after this season an extra year of eligibility for next season. Virginia canceled, of course, their last couple of games after the tragic murders of 3 teammates, and the NCAA has given anybody that otherwise would have been out of eligibility an extra year. Some cases, I don't know if they have 6th-year players now that might get a 7th or 5th-year players. We've seen this now more common, who will get a 6th.
It's whoever had a year, yeah. I mean, whoever has eligibility that expired, whether you're 5th year and graduated or not even graduation matter, but if you were in your final year, 5th, 6th, 4th, whatever, you wouldn't be in your 4th final year, obviously, but in most cases. But yeah, I mean, regardless, I think that's a unexpected but a welcome move on the part of the NCAA, and I think maybe today was the first time that I actually saw, somebody who's not an obvious NCAA burner account actually saying, well done, NCAA, by the droves. You don't see that ever anymore or at all. And there were, numerous, I think, responses to that wherever it was shot out of, reporting-wise, wherever you saw the story. If you look at the comments, I think everybody was pretty much in unison that this is a very fair and welcomed move and good on the NCAA for doing something like that.
All right. Also, one more story. Will Levis, the quarterback at Kentucky, will not play in the Music City Bowl against Iowa. He was opted out. He'll be the first of many, and it really does change up the bowl season. It's the opportunity, the option that players have, no different than transfer portal. And to me, it almost makes predicting bowl games impossible.
Yeah, it's real hard.
It's not impossible because you just pick, but yeah, you're absolutely right. As far as like trying to get them right and be accurate with it, like who the heck knows, what teams are going to show up based on who shows up for them or not. I mean, yeah, absolutely. It's a complete guessing game as far as, what to expect. And I don't know, that's kind of part of the wildness and craziness of it. It's that you don't know what to expect. And in some cases, now you're going to see guys you otherwise wouldn't see playing in a bowl game so long as they're not going to have their eligibility affected. But, I mean, this comes as absolutely no surprise, right? That Will Levis is going to go prepare for the draft. I mean, barring them being in, like, the playoff or something like that, I think that's the route that, a lot of NFL-type top prospect guys are going to take or have been taking. Obviously not everybody. Some guys want to go out there and play that final one, but I mean, in terms of a big-time quarterback guy, I'm not going to really blink at it unless it's Bryce Young's. Like, I'm going to sit out the playoff game, which I know they're not but that example, like that's C.J. Stroud's not going to play in the playoff because he's getting ready for the NFL draft. That's when it will now become shocking. But if Will Levis deciding to not play in that bowl game, like that's not a surprise, and that's just kind of the other new part of the new reality that is college football that we all just have to get used to because that's just the way it is now.
Yeah. All right. Now, so that's the story. Now, do you have the Kevin? No. Let's save that for 5. It's about realignment. No. This is not about realignment. This is Kevin Warren, the Big Ten commissioner. Paul, I think you shared that with us earlier. Big Ten commissioner Kevin Warren and ACC commissioner Mike Oresco, remember him? The AAC, the American Conference, told Brett McMurphy they're open to having both first round and quarter-final round games on campus sites in the 12-team playoff that will start in 2024. Warren said it would be wonderful. Quarterfinals are set for bowls in 24-25. The earliest campus sites would be in 2026.
Yeah. Well, I remember I did a top 5 about this, and we had a really discussion about more home playoff games. And at first, the thought of it is like, well, I mean, there's just going to be that because of the bowls. But my point was, when the conferences realized that some of their big brands, like, for example, this year, if the 12-team playoff happened this year, Ohio State would get a home playoff game, right? In the first round. Michigan would not. So
that's a great point.
You're going to tell the Big Ten that they could have 2 of those possibly based on the next week in the quarterfinals? And you're also telling the top 4 teams that, no, you don't get to host a home playoff game. You got the bye week, and it's either or. Now, look, I'm all for compromise and being either or, but that's 100,000-seat stadiums in a lot of instances that are not going to be filled.
But if you're not going to play in the first round, you're getting a bye. So you're saying they should get a bye and then host the next round?
I'm not saying that.
No,
I'm saying that they
it's at
will.
Least something they'll discuss.
I'm saying that they will say that because they will say, well, hey, here, I'll give you the example of Michigan. Who can put more people in this thing and sell more tickets than this at this locale?
Or a bowl game in Memphis.
Yeah, exactly. Or you're going to have those different neutral site games. I think the train will eventually pull into that station of doing those first 2 rounds there, and they'll figure out something else with the bowls.
It would be great for fans. Now, again, the traveling fans will still, if they win the first game, have to go on the road again the second game. But, Craig, your thoughts? I'm all for the campus sites. I really am. I know the bowl games, lobbyists, the money involved. They've been fighting for this for years and years. I don't know really. I mean, just off the top of my head, it wouldn't bother me at all.
I mean, off the top of my head, the first thing I think of is if you're Kevin Warren, who are you wanting to succeed? You're wanting the Big Ten teams, right? So would you rather see Michigan, which and don't take it as like, I know Michigan would beat most anybody right now, but let's say you've got Michigan, for example, or anybody else you want to put in there, and they're going to be hosting Texas in the first round. Would you rather go play that game in Arlington or Atlanta?
Sure.
Or do you want the Longhorns in the snow in Ann Arbor in December? I want their ass at home. That's where I want them. I want them at the big house, right? I mean, that's a no-brainer to me. I think the more home games, the merrier. I think that's the purity of college football, not these big, glossy NFL stadiums. I think those have their place for certain sites. I think those have their place for certain, like a playoff game, the final, certainly. But I think in terms of expanding and, just doing what's best for fans, even though, yes, the visiting fans will have to travel, but that's happening regardless. I'd rather see it, Texas fans have to go to the big house, or Michigan fans have to go play at the Coliseum, or that versus go play at the Rams Stadium. Give me that all day. Give me that all day over the NFL option, and I'm all for that, and I'm all for it being both rounds. The whole thing, I still see the back and forth on playoff expansion, and that's never going to end or not. But here's the deal, folks. Whether you like the format or not, doesn't matter. It's happening. So whether you think 4 is superior, or whether you think 16's the best, or you think like Mike Leach, it should be March Madness, and Mike Leach thinks that just because Washington State would have a chance to always get in there. But regardless of where you stand, it is what it is. It's a 12-team playoff now, and it's not changing for the foreseeable future. So that's what it's going to be. And, there are definitely some downsides to it, no doubt about it. But I think one of the upsides to it is, like, are we really not going to be excited to see these games? Like, the closer we get to it, I'm, like, amped up about seeing a first-round matchup that, could feature Kansas State hosting UCLA for a spot at the next round to go face Alabama or whatever. Like, I'm all on board with that. I understand, again, there are downsides. It's the fan traveling an extra couple of games if you get to that point. It's also the wear and tear, that you worry about. But then again, the NFL's adding games too. If this goes to the part of the argument where, well, the players are getting paid now, and the more games, the more money flowing, and guarantee you that money's not going to keep getting siphoned off from the players at this point. That's going to go into their pockets as well, and that will be all figured out and corrected and will be on the up and up, just because it's too much in the focus right now. So, yeah, I'm all on board with the first 2 rounds being at home sites.
Andy Everett will join us at UTSA on the Frank Harris decision. Paul?
Yeah, I think also, if you're Kevin Warren, you're also seeing out what's the potential argument among the schools year to year in this thing. And so again, on the case of Michigan and Ohio State, I'll just say it. If I was Michigan and I beat Ohio State, and even though I got the bye, I'm still greedy ass Michigan, right? I want everything that I can get. I'm not.
In this day and age, everybody does get whatever they want.
Exactly. So if I'm Kevin Warren, instead of having to sift through that argument, right, and say, well, this is what we agreed to, and you're not the only one who suffers here. Clemson didn't get to do this either this year, or USC or whoever. Michigan's not going to care about that. They only care about Michigan, right? So if you give more home playoff sites, then you have that.
It's interesting that Kevin Warren is the one with the opinion about now going forward with the expanded playoff, when he was one who tried to shut it down.
Yeah, because he wanted it to be at his advantage.
Yeah,
that's why he's Kevin Warren.
I agree, but it's still ironic that
he did that before they added USC and UCLA, and before they potentially add whoever else they might potentially add in the future. So, yeah, I mean, he played it well. You got to give him credit for doing well on the chessboard, along with Sankey and everybody else who ultimately wanted it to get to this point. But, yeah, you looked at the playoff this year. How close was that to being 2 SEC and 2 Big Ten teams, guys? That was very close to being 2 SEC and 2 Big Ten. So as much as you're like, oh, that'll never happen, or we'll avoid that, I mean, those guys see the dollar signs. That's why they're in the positions that they're in, and he knew what he was doing, and so kudos to him. And, it's going to be a Big Ten heavy and an SEC heavy world like it pretty much has been for the last 20 years, so I don't know how much changes there, but there's not going to be as many roadblocks to the TCUs of the world, or potentially a K-State in this type of format this year of not getting that opportunity. So I know it's never going to be a unanimously accepted thing, but I like the home sites.
I do too. I would love to see that happen for as long as possible. So think about all the stories from today, to give you a quick wrap, and then we come back with the UTSA decision, including Frank Harris, who will come back, and Andy Everett's about to join us about that and what it means to the program in the city. DJ Lagway commits to Florida. Jeff Brohm to Louisville. Phil Longo, UNC, to Wisconsin offensive coordinator. Jack Coletto, by the way, named the Paul Hornung Award for most versatile player from Oregon State, played like 8 different positions. Let's see. Jim Leonard will not coach at Wisconsin after their bowl game. Will Levis opts out of Kentucky's bowl game. What am I missing here?
Ruben Owens
decommits from Louisville. We'll see what happens with that. And believe me, his phone is blowing up.
Here's another report. This just came down the last 10 minutes, and it's from Buff Zone beat writer, because now, of course, there's a lot going on with Colorado. But Brian Howell is reporting that Colorado will hire Alabama associate DC Charles Kelly to be the defensive coordinator for Deion Sanders and the Colorado Buffaloes. So Deion's staff starting to come together, and it looks like his DC will be Alabama's associate DC Charles Kelly. So another little note there to add.
All right, there we go. Coming up next, Andy Everett, voice of UTSA football. The announcement today of Frank Harris, when that was brought up yesterday that he was going to have the announcement. Great news for UTSA. He's coming back. Great news for college football. His thoughts about what it means, and also the reaction in San Antonio, which is a huge birds up Roadrunner fan base. This is 365 Sports.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive and North 19th Street in Waco. A hidden gem. You've heard me talk about it since the day we got on the air here at 365 Sports. They have the best selection of locally sourced Texas bourbons. And I'm just going to talk about that for this spot here because I'm a big bourbon aficionado. I love it. Every time I go in there, Amanda, my fiance, sometimes will get impatient and say, like, come on, we got to go pick something out. But I don't necessarily want to. I want to look at everything and see everything and read labels and all that. They're great with it. They have so much. And again, so much that even me, a bourbon aficionado, can't get tired of going in there and seeing it. And especially if I'm trying to get bourbons from right here in the great state of Texas. Devil's River, TX, Balcones, Garrison Brothers, all delicious, all there. Every variety, everything that's made in Texas, it's there at Riverbend Liquor and Wine, and a bunch of stuff that's not either. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive, North 19th Street. Check them out on Instagram. Also available on DoorDash.
TFNB Your Bank for Life is the official local bank of Baylor Athletics. Find out why more Central Texas are making TFNB their bank for life. Sign up for our Edge checking and savings accounts to earn interest or cash back. With 5 convenient locations and an award-winning mobile app, banking has never been easier. TFNB, your bank for life. Member FDIC.
Did you know Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lakeshore Drive in Waco is open to the public? Next time you're in town for a Baylor athletic event or you're in town for tourism, take advantage of their day passes for $10 a piece or the weekend for $30. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness offers 40 group exercise classes, including indoor cycling and yoga, boot camp, and bar. New free weights, weight machines, TRX rowing machines, stationary bikes, new treadmills, new elliptical machines, and a spacious weight room floor. Personal training with Christy London, Randall Corley, and Alec Bach, where you will be encouraged to grow. Sauna, whirlpool, tanning bed, kids club, 16 tennis courts, and 8 pickleball courts, and youth and adult tennis and pickleball lessons available. Waco's premier experience where you can help your mind, body, and soul. Visit wacotennis.com or visit them next to Hawaiian Falls on Lakeshore Drive in Waco.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Cam Heathcott, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why we take the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Cam Heathcott in Conroe at 936-756-7717. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
You know what would make this moment better? Pizza. Dough made from scratch and an Italian family sauce recipe pizza. 3 fresh signature cheeses making a melty blanket of perfection pizza. Like loads of premium toppings like crispy Old World pepperoni, savory Italian sausage, and fresh sliced veggies pizza. That's Marco's Pizza. Visit marcos.com and make any moment better. And with 4 locations in Waco, Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and soon to open in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
Boots add protection. Good boots help you climb better and move forward faster. And when your son or daughter steps into the boots of a U.S. Army officer, they also learn how to lead. In these boots, they'll gain more confidence with expert training in one of more than 150 occupational specialties. In these boots, they'll stand a little taller and lead a team with diverse backgrounds and areas of expertise to successfully accomplish whatever challenge comes next. In these boots, they'll earn respect with valuable experience from day one that will give them solid footing for success into the future. Highly qualified candidates who earn a spot on our team can receive comprehensive health care coverage, college tuition assistance, and a bonus of up to $40,000. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
Shorty's Pizza Shack at 12th and Bagby is a homegrown, locally owned pizza place that's out of this world. Everything from the dough, the sauce, the sausage topping is made fresh in-house. Not to mention the amazing pizza pillows, the chicken wings are to die for. Try the Sikkim sauce, chili cheese fries or tots, plus great specials on food and drink every single day. Shorty's is also the perfect spot to watch the game with your friends. Shorty's Pizza Shack at 12th and Bagby. Tell them Paul sent you by.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
In field goal range, though. Harris to the end zone. Franklin, touchdown!
The 4 o'clock hour is sponsored by Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store, specializing in custom jewelry and repair, all in-house.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
We have been fortunate because of our relationship with Jeff Traylor to talk UTSA football quite a bit. And, of course, it's been easy to do so, what he's done there. Frank Harris joined us, I think, about a week or two ago, and he discussed his decision he had to make. And today he made it official that he's coming back for another year to play for the Roadrunners. We're joined by Andy Everett, voice of UTSA Athletics on 365 Sports. Andy with Paul Craig, and I'm David Smoak. Andy, it seemed like this was the obvious answer he was going to give, or at least what he was going to say. What has been the reaction in San Antonio?
I think everybody's thoroughly excited about it. I don't know that anybody had an idea what he was going to do until probably last week. I think the one thing that may have kind of tipped the scales in this direction, back right before the UTEP game, the last game of the season, Brendan Brady spoke to the whole class. Brendan Brady was the starting running back before he got hurt in the UTEP game. And Brendan decided last year not to return and then change his mind right around spring practice, and then came back in the summer and the fall. And he told everybody in the room and the 21 seniors, hey, if you've got eligibility left, come back. You're crazy if you don't. I almost made the wrong decision. I'm glad I came back, and this was a great decision for me. And Frank and Brendan have been great friends since their high school days, even though they played at different high schools. But they've known each other since they were kids. So this is a great decision. I don't know what the details of the NIL deal are. I'm sure it's substantial. They didn't really speak about that today, and nobody even really asked about it. But Frank's going to be a Roadrunner for a 7th season next year.
Andy, especially with the conference move coming up, was this just so key to the continuity so they could hit the ground running when they got there?
Yeah, I think they needed to find out who their quarterback was going to be. And Will Stein, the offensive coordinator, left to go to Oregon, and Will had some potential guys in the transfer portal that may have considered UTSA had the NIL deal been up to the right standard. But he's gone. But I think the most important thing is this is a recruiting week. UTSA is trying to get ready for a bowl game while at the same time trying to get everybody signed by next Wednesday that they want signed. And there's quarterbacks that they were after that would have said yes, or transfers that may have come here if Frank was not coming back. But by solidifying that, now they can turn their attention to other things. Now they need to go out and make sure they have a stable of freshmen or junior college quarterbacks that can play in 24 and beyond to kind of get that line ready for the future, knowing that Frank's going to be the guy for a year. So that helps Jeff Traylor. That helps all the other coaches. That helps the guys that are trying to determine whether they want to come back for an extra year they're already on the team. So I think this announcement was at the right time, and I'm sure after the bowl game and the conference USA championship game, I think Frank decided, hey, I'm having way too much fun. I can't pass up this for one more year.
Andy, I mean, they had the loss that was nearly a win in the opener against Houston. I mean, they had every opportunity to win that game, and then obviously lost to Texas a couple weeks later, and then after that ran the dang table. And we talked to Coach, and he was mentioning just how beat up, the Roadrunners were by the end of the year, kind of limping to the finish line. But 11-2, CUSA champs. Just what's it like surrounding this program right now?
Well, I think Jeff is the ultimate motivator, and all of this starts with him. He created the triangle of toughness. He gave the players the opportunity to kind of police themselves by making his leaders part of what he calls his leadership council. He got all the players to buy into those leaders. UTSA was down 24-0 in the second quarter to UTEP, and I don't think there was a player. I don't think there was a fan. I know there wasn't a broadcaster that didn't think UTSA could come back. And they scored 2 touchdowns right before the half. It's 24-10. And or 24-14, you're down 10, and you played the worst half you played all year, and you're probably still a little bit, saddened by the fact that 21 seniors had their senior day, and you're playing a team that's trying to get bowl eligible, and you're not all that motivated, and somehow you come back in the second half and outscore them and win the game, and that's just what this team does. Jeff, in Jeff's tenure year here, they are 15-3 in games decided by a touchdown or less. Most of them come back. And in the last 2 years, I believe it's 11-1. And you just don't win that many games. And then you throw in the fact that pretty much every position group had somebody go down at some point this year, except for quarterback. And they probably had 25 guys that either missed games or missed a portion of the season with injuries that were key to that 2 deep, and they still won.
Andy, when he arrived, and we've known him for a long time from his days in high school football in East Texas and, of course, as an assistant coach elsewhere, we knew his success. We knew his passion. Could you ever have expected the passion and the fan base being what it is now, the way it is now?
Well, not where we were 3 years ago to where we are now is amazing. And especially considering that one of them was a COVID year where most of the meetings before the season happened were all on Zoom and everything was protective. And UTSA only missed 1 game that year. They had a couple others canceled, but they were able to make games up with other teams that also had cancellations. Then they go through the gamut last year and win every game until the final game of the season against North Texas. And then they had a lot of injuries and COVID during the bowl game, which was part of the reason why they missed out against San Diego State. It's just remarkable. He is such a overlooked coach. I mean, I think UTSA is thrilled that they have him. They're even more thrilled that he and his wife want to stay in San Antonio and did not want to go to Lubbock where they were going to get paid more. But honestly, I think he believes he has a better chance of winning Conference USA and the American Conference. And eventually that American Conference champion is going to get an automatic bid into the group of 12 when they expand the playoffs to 12 teams. So he's going to have a chance almost every year to play in the national championship tournament. Now, you may not beat Alabama and Georgia. That may be a mountain that's too hard to climb, but you never know until you get there, and he's certainly up for that challenge when and if it comes.
On Frank Harris, is there an athlete that is more San Antonio through and through than him?
Not that I can think of, and I think he's already punched his ticket for be a future Hall of Fame member of the San Antonio Sports Hall of Fame, and Frank is not an NFL quarterback. He's probably too short. He's probably not fast enough. His hands aren't big enough. He's a good athlete, but he's not a great athlete. He just wins. Now, I think there's room for that at any level. When you can just figure out a way to win with all the deficiencies you have, that's pretty impressive. But the measurables aren't there for the scouts to go, okay, we're going to draft him in the 5th round and see what happens. If he wants to walk on to a team at some point or get a free agent contract, that's down the road and possibly. But I can never see Frank in the NFL just because the NFL scouts don't like players that don't measure their measurables. But that doesn't mean he's not one of the greatest college players that's ever played. And I think if he was putting up these numbers in a Power 5 conference, he'd be a Heisman Trophy candidate. Unfortunately, he's playing in Conference USA, and people look down at the competition that you're playing, but his numbers are as good as the 4 guys that are going to New York this weekend.
You know, I agree with you 100%. I'm fortunate to have a vote, and I'm telling you, it was so I can't give my vote out, but someone like that means as much, if not more, to UTSA than anybody else. Even Max Duggan at TCU, Caleb Williams, these guys are all incredible. But Frank Harris almost epitomizes to me in a lot of ways what the Heisman Trophy might be.
Absolutely, and he played well against Texas in a loss. They played well at times against. They probably played their best game of the year, either the bowl game or the championship game against North Texas or the Houston game. The Houston game, they made a couple of errors with a substitution penalty and a turnover, and then they didn't get the right read on the 2-point conversion to tie it in the third overtime. But they played really well in that game. And, I think I can't see what Frank would have done against Texas Tech and Oklahoma State and OU and Kansas in that schedule had he played them. But I don't know that his numbers would be that much further off. This was a really good offense this year, and they moved the ball for the most part against Houston and Texas, which was probably the 2 best teams they played.
Andy, congratulations to UTSA and our great friend Jeff Traylor, and also Frank Harris, who will get honored in other ways, I'm sure, down the road. We appreciate your time and appreciate the feedback.
You got it. Have a great night.
You too. That's Andy Everett, voice of UTSA. Frank Harris, not a surprise, 7th year. It's part of what we have now. And today, because of that COVID year, Baylor was a very, very experienced, like 5-6-year players last year. This year, not so much. Doesn't mean they didn't have some guys like that. Other schools do too. Now you have the Virginia story getting an extra year. It's just kind of part of it. And in this case, Frank Harris, he is the straw that stirs that entire drink. So is Jeff Traylor, but as a player, he is the straw that stirs the drink. A fantastic leader and a fantastic player. And he's put up some huge numbers. So he's coming back to UTSA. The number of stories today in college football from the ones we've tried to cover from the time we opened up the show is pretty phenomenal. Coming up next.
UTSA versus Troy might be the best bowl game in the entire country. I mean, as far as like a quality football game, that's going to be a terrific game, UTSA and Troy. So, yeah, great news for the Roadrunners and Traylor, as you mentioned. That's big for them. Not sure who all outside of Frank Harris will be coming back or not, but – they'll identify and pull in some talent to surround him with, and I'm sure there's a good number of guys that will be back as well to help aid that. But yeah, them and Troy is going to be. I mean, that's whoever wins is going to be in the top 25 at the end of the year. So that's going to be a lot of fun out in Orlando here in what's about 10 days from now, 9 days from now, the Cure Bowl. That's going to be awesome.
You talk about someone who's wanted, and I know UTSA has taken care of him, but I mean, just people have to at least know what's going on and what he's done at San Antonio at the great Roadrunner Birds Up at UTSA and Jeff Traylor with the great situation today with Frank Harris. Now, when we come back, a couple of stories that are sports-related, college sports-related, one involving Arizona State's executive vice president, and last night ESPN Plus had a bad night. That and more next on 365 Sports. PettyClinicLowT.com. Dr. Kent Petty can help you become the high-performance man that you want to be, need to be, and used to be. Dr. Kent Petty, you can contact him and his staff at the website, PettyClinicLowT.com. Top left-hand corner, email, and a phone number. Tell them I sent you. 1 out of every 3 men have symptomatic issues of low testosterone. Sleep habits are not the same. Energy is not the same. There might be some other things going on with you as well, but also your sex drive is not the same. There's something going on there. And as you get older, 1 out of every 3 men have one of or more of the symptomatic issues of low testosterone. Dr. Petty will set you up with an appointment. His staff will set up the appointment. They will set up for you to go get your blood work. They will get the results. Dr. Petty will look at them and find out if your testosterone level is too low. And if it is, put you in a program to help increase your testosterone levels so you can get back to being who you used to be. PettyClinicLowT.com. Dr. Kent Petty can help you become the high-performance man you want to be, used to be, need to be at PettyClinicLowT.com.
The Big Finish sales event is happening now at Allen Samuels in Waco, and we're celebrating this holiday season with an incredible lineup of all new 2022 Jeep models like the Grand Cherokee L, Renegade, Gladiator, Wrangler, and the Wrangler 4xe. Jeep SUVs are known for their design and technology. The Grand Cherokee L even brings you extended seating with a third row. Hurry in, find the Jeep that fits your family. If we don't have exactly what you want, we can order it today. Wrap up some of the best deals of the year and drive home today at Allen Samuels in Waco.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
Don Humidor, your home with a 48-foot walk-in humidor with the elite cigar brands from around the world, including the #1 cigar of the year, Aging Room Cuatro Nicaragua. Plus, they have the great brands like Macanudo and Artur Fuente, Rocky Patel, Aston, and so much more. CBD, great for sore muscles, aches and pains, sleep, Vita Dreams, and anxiety, mild depression, general health and wellness. Their staff very knowledgeable on the subject. If anyone is curious about CBD, ask Carol and Ashley. Don Humidor in the Townwest Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
1, 2. I'm in love with a man named Rudy. I'm okay with that. He knows exactly what I want. He keeps me coming back. He cooks breakfast, lunch, and dinner for me. Does the dishes too. I'm in love with a man named Rudy. Last name Barbecue. It sure is easy to fall in love with Rudy's Tasty Oak Smoked Barbecue.
Next in line.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
Hi, this is Paul Catalina. I recently got engaged to the love of my life, but the most important thing that I had to do before I popped the question was get that perfect ring. And I know nothing about rings. So I went to the wedding ring store, Boozer's Jewelers on Valley Mills Drive. I knew I needed a custom design, and that's exactly what they do. 9 out of 10 of their engagement rings are designed in-house. The entire process took less than a month, and they were great every step of the way. Great options on financing, excellent selection, and talented designers. My fiance and I get nonstop compliments on the ring. I only deserve credit for doing the smartest thing I could, walking into Boozer's and letting them work their magic. Your one-of-a-kind fiance deserves a one-of-a-kind ring, and that's what you get at Boozer's. Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store on Valley Mills Drive.
Stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. See all the things they can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. Want more updates during the day? Follow 365 Sports YT on Twitter.
Our good friend JT in Pikes Peak, he's been with us since day one and even before that. He goes, thanks for having Jesse Kurtz on, the Air Force color analyst. Great interview. JT, thank you. What's up? What's cracking, Sikkim 365 family? JT, it's always great to hear from you up in the beautiful state of Colorado. Also, here's a note on Twitter. James Capilla from our friend who covers Oregon. Arizona State Executive Vice President and Chief Operating Officer Chris Howard says inducement in recruiting is wrong and against NCAA rules and laws. Of course, ASU had the booster that put up $1 million during the press conference introducing Kenny Dillingham to his collective during his opening press conference.
Yeah, I mean, you can loosely attach that, but they didn't say what the money was for.
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, I mean, I don't think there's a real gotcha moment there. I don't think it's a surprise that, inducements are being made left and right. Speaking of that, A&M and Ruben Owens already seeing the traction for not from Ruben Owens, but A&M fans. Like I saw Billy Liucci comment real quick on like how close his recruitment was the last time around. So there's one spot for sure to keep in mind. But he was committed to Texas at one point as well, I believe, or they were in the running for him. Was he committed there? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, he was committed there.
Okay, thanks, Garrett. So yeah, I mean those are two schools automatically, and with him being from El Campo, that you definitely put them on the list for Ruben Owens. But yeah, I mean that's the world now, and just saying you're going to donate $1 million to a collect is not necessarily saying that it's going towards inducements. But we all know the deal. We're all smart enough. We all know what the deal was before all these rules were passed and what was going on. And we're not shocked by any of this. It's all out there.
Just like the guys today at the Frank Harris announcement, a lot of them donors and businesses, they just not because they like Frank Harris.
They didn't induce him to come back.
Yeah, they didn't, but they
had a hand in it.
They're going to take care of him, no question, and it's part of what we are today. Now, college basketball, last night there was a game at Baylor at the Farrell Center. Baylor beat Tarleton State. It was a horrible game. It was boring. Too many fouls, 50 fouls. Baylor ended up winning, pulling away by 23. 58 free throws, which is insanity. I've done JUCO games before when there were 50 or 60 free throws. It just shuts it down. Billy Gillespie does a great job at Tarleton State. Has been on the Baylor staff way, way long ago. A&M, Kentucky, elsewhere. And that's about to be a Division I school in the Mountain West in about a year. It wasn't impressive. Flagler and Cryer didn't play. Baylor won 80-57. Wanted to mention the fouls and free throws because that about drove me nuts.
Those games drive you nuts. They're hard to watch. You're just like, what am I even doing here? This is stopping and starting. And basketball's supposed to be a flow. It's back and forth.
It was bad. Now, a great game last night on ESPN. Illinois came back to beat Texas in overtime, 85-78. They were in trouble. Texas led most of the second half. The last part, 5, 6, 8 points. But led by Matthew Meyer in his big first half, 21 points, 3 blocks, 8 of 10 shooting, 5 of 5 threes. Terrence Shannon, Texas Tech star, scored 16 points, had 3 steals, hit some clutch free throws in overtime. And Dane Danger, former Baylor player who's averaging 9 points and 6 rebounds a game, at 9 and 6 against Texas. UT is really good. Hunter brings a tremendous amount of, to me, glue to that team. He didn't have a great night. Carr had a bad turnover but played well. The bigs inside were good. But this was a game that makes college basketball fun to watch and will make both of these teams better. Illinois with the win. Texas, their first loss of the year.
What was one of the things I said about Matthew Meyer and his appearance last year that he needed to maybe let go of?
Get rid of the
mullet.
He got rid of it.
Yep.
Yeah, he did.
Because he's got the thing about Matthew Meyer is he's immensely talented. I don't know if he was ever taking himself seriously enough, right? And that's fine to enjoy and be a kid, but when you're trying to be a professional basketball player like he is here in the very near future, you've got to start taking yourself seriously. And not that the haircut is an all-telling thing. Guys all over the place have wild haircuts, but I think for his personality, he needed to kind of do something that showed that, I'm not just this guy with a goofy haircut who has, 3 good games and 3 bad ones in succession. I'm a guy who's taking this seriously. And I think I'm not trying to make a Colin Cowherd take here, but I do think that him doing that kind of shows me that he's maybe not trying to be as goofy as he was before.
Well, one of the quotes from the coach at the end of the game, I don't know if you saw this, Craig, was we wanted to welcome him to Champaign, Illinois, although the game was, I think, up in New York or whatever. He was kind of almost making fun of the fact that
Madison
he joined.
Square Garden.
Yeah, that's what did I say?
You said in New York or whatever. It was Madison Square Garden.
And that Brad Underwood was like, hey, welcome to the Illinois basketball family, because he hasn't been all that productive. Not bad, but he was huge last night.
Yeah, he cursed in his post-game interview and had to apologize. I was just like, yes, of course, Matthew Meyer's just still goofy. He's still goofy. I mean that, in a complimentary way. But yeah, I remember seeing him when he had first cut his hair and didn't recognize him at first. So it's definitely a different look than what we got accustomed to. It's almost like watching a different player, but then you watch him for a little while and you're like, no, that's still Matthew Meyer. But yeah, he had his former high school teammate Brock Cunningham on the other side, and enjoyed beating him, and that's where I think the slip occurred. Where he's enjoyed talking ish to him, and he's, oh, my bad, I didn't mean to say that. But yeah, great win for Illinois. They played a really tough schedule. I mean, their losses are against really quality teams. Brad Underwood obviously has done a great job up there, and Terrence Shannon went nuts in overtime. I mean, he went absolutely insane once they got to the bonus period. So, he had a comment about how Texas is a very senior-laden team and has really lived in the portal with Chris Beard about as much as anybody has. And obviously Hunter is one of those big pieces that they added there. But, I mean, so is Illinois had their fair share. I mean, we're talking about the Texas, Meyer and Shannon alone, Danger as well. But great win for the Illini. I think those two teams are, both set up to have tremendous seasons the rest of the way. And that was just a great college basketball game early in the season at MSG, which is all you could really ask for as a fan. So both will be better for it, as you said. And just the first loss for Texas. So we'll see how they rebound. But, yeah, we'll definitely have an opportunity to possibly see them tangle again in the future.
Illinois' losses are to Virginia and also lost to Maryland, both teams that are ranked inside the top 25. That was their best win of the year, and it's their first win again. No, they beat UCLA, a top 10 team as well, earlier in the year. And I think the same tournament where Baylor was out in Vegas. Now, Houston is the number 1 ranked team in the country. They played North Florida. And the game was supposed to be, as they were promoting ESPN Plus today, number 1 Houston versus North Florida. Tonight, that's yesterday's tweet. But they had some technical problems. I think that even occurred with some other games, might have even occurred with the Baylor game based on Twitter. ESPN Plus help. We apologize for the inconvenience. Our technical team is aware of the issue, working to resolve it as soon as possible. We appreciate your patience. They had a bad night. There were games that weren't on. Those who were broadcasting that just weren't on. And, again, I don't know what happened, but they came on. They apologized. Some of the reactions were, thank you, please just get it fixed. And some of them were, I want my money back.
Here's your $7.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or whatever it is.
So I think it's maybe more than that now.
I think if you get the bundle, I don't know what it is, just straight up ESPN Plus. But
the bundle's a pretty good deal. But it's going to happen. Like, you got big serve. Like, this is probably something that they're a big server farm. And,
have you seen the quality of some of their broadcasts?
Yeah.
Like, it's amazing this hasn't happened more often, quite frankly, that they've had a misconnection. But, I saw a lot of complaints about that, and I just kind of chalked it up to that's part of the deal. That's going to happen on occasion.
Well, we'll be scarred forever because of Texas State. I think that'll always be the production of that game, which they apologize for, the guy that runs that department. Now, I want to answer one more question, but we'll do it in the next segment. We're also going to hear from Tim Brando, not live. He was on with us Monday, but he threw kind of a nugget down that we all heard. We didn't really react to it because we were up against the time, but we're going to come back with a couple of comments a comment he made from Monday. And then also an answer to Jerry Chatham, who asked me a question about Dave Aranda. We'll get to that too. Want to do that after this?
No, I was going to mention real quick, former BYU quarterback Jacob Conover has committed to Arizona State. He's originally from Chandler, Arizona, so there's a connection there. But a quarterback pickup for Kenny Dillingham, and Conover pretty highly rated when he first landed with the Cougars. So there's another quarterback out of the portal. Not one of the highly heralded guys, obviously, but notable that Dillingham's making moves and just pulled a QB from BYU.
That is
amazing
lifestyle change from university to university.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no doubt.
The way that the on-campus life is at Arizona State compared to BYU is very different.
Yeah. BYU stays focused.
BYU, by the way, hired Weber State head coach Jay Hill. He's now their defensive coordinator for Kalani Sitake after theirs resigned.
At some point, we're going to have to do like a recap. We'll have obviously months of recap time and all of that for football once the season wraps up. But looking at the new 4, Houston with Holgorsen kind of limping in a way. Not sure like how he's being viewed down there at this point, but no, there's various stages of this season where Houston fans were like, get him out of here. BYU obviously had to make, big move with their coordinator. Then you look at UCF probably coming in the hottest because in Cincinnati lost Luke Fickell. So all of these teams minus really UCF, I guess, is kind of having to deal with pretty major changes ahead of their big move to the Big 12. So be interesting kind of how the rest of it goes this offseason, because there's a lot more offseason to come. But that's notable and part of that transition and just part of today's college football.
All right, when we come back, we'll get to what Tim Brando said, which perked our attention, but we didn't get into it enough because of time. And answering Jerry Chatham on a question he asked me about the access and what we have or not heard from Dave Aranda since the loss to Texas. And this is 365 Sports. Waco Custom Marketplace. On Sunday evening, I had a delicious bone-in ribeye. Big, thick, about I'd say an inch and a quarter. That's where I get my steaks when I want them, and usually they are bone-in ribeyes. Sometimes they're big, thick, the filet, bacon-wrapped filet. I get other product from there, produce from there as well. It's a really nice little, like a hometown grocery store. Bakery that's got fresh baked bread and kolaches every day, along with sweets and much more. And then the butcher shop, whether it's seafood, pork, poultry, or beef. They have what you need. They'll cut it for you. You can call ahead, have a custom order, then go pick it up. And right now, with all of what we have between now, Thanksgiving is in the distance away from us in the rearview mirror, Christmas and the holidays, and of course, New Year's coming up. So they have various types of ham and turkey. Hams and turkey. In fact, they have smoked turkeys if you want, whole turkeys as well. And of course, they have pitted ham and much, much more. It's Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco.
Hi, I'm Mark Stewart with Bird Colgan Ford. It's that time of year. It's football season. And BK Ford is a proud supporter of the best high school football teams in Texas, right here in Central Texas. BK Ford is proud to sell the #1 truck in Texas, the F-Series truck, led by our leading rusher, the F-150, 45 years in a row. Lock in your best price and rate today by custom ordering your new F-150 at BK Ford. Simple, easy, trusted. Experience better at Bird Colgan Ford.
It takes time to reach goals. It's a truth that applies to more than sports. It goes for your financial goals as well. You work hard for your money, and you deserve an investment strategy that lines up with your game plan. And Chuck Verno, your Edward Jones financial advisor, can help. If financial investments aren't putting forth the effort you desire, stop by today for a financial review. Chuck Verno, 720 North 64th Street in Waco, 254-732-1161. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Hey, this is Bryce Petty, former starting quarterback and two-time Big 12 champion. And I know firsthand the importance of being in top shape both on and off the field. So listen up, men. If you're feeling beat down day in and day out and looking for that high-performance edge that separates the men from the boys, then look no further than the Petty Clinic Low T in Waco. Petty Clinic is a comprehensive men's healthcare clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Board-certified Dr. Kent Petty has a special interest in offering the highest quality medical care to men of all ages. Some of the services offered include screening and treatment for low testosterone or thyroid, infertility, high blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol, sleep apnea, while offering comprehensive wellness exams and complete men's health lab panels. High performance men, remember, it's not just a Petty thing. This is Bryce Petty, encouraging you to reach out and Google search Petty Clinic Low T or go to pettycliniclowt.com and get your complimentary lab screening today.
Do you or your kids get nervous about going to the dentist? Stonewood Dental, Dr. Steve Childress, he can help.
I've spent a career taking care of patients who as children had bad experiences, and now they're adults that hate going to the dentist. If I get a kid at 3 years old and they come every 6 months and it's a happy experience, it's normal for them. Now they have an accident at 6 or 7 or 8 at school. Now they have a broken tooth or a trauma, and they have to come here. They're used to lights, they're used to water in their mouth, they're used to experience, they already trust us. It's amazing what we can do with that kid without it being a negative thing. But if I see a 6 or 7 or 8 year old that's never been to the dentist, and now they have a trauma or an unfortunate unexpected toothache, it's harder to do that for that kid and it not be somewhat of a negative experience. So bottom line is I try to teach kids and adults and teenagers and everybody the way I'd want my family treated, which is where it's a necessary part of life. You just take care of it. It doesn't have to be that big a deal.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
It was broad daylight. I stepped into a gas station for 5 minutes to grab a snack, and just like that, my car was broken into. They made out like a bandit. My laptop, my phone, everything. I called my agent to see what could be done, and he restored my faith in humanity. My claim was processed so quickly, and I was able to recover my losses.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. Are you a Sikkim 365 super fan? Then try out our premium subscriptions at Sikkim365.com.
All of you in the chat room, thank you. Just on the bottom level, just the names real quick. Steve, Paxton, TJ, Redwine65, Jason V, and Show Memo. Thanks for all of the constant back and forth with so many of you. We appreciate you, and we'll appreciate you. We'll read some of those here in a minute. Text line just mentioned JT and Pikes Peak. Among Paxton was on there as well. A couple of things. So on Monday, Tim Brando, Fox Sports, who's always got an opinion, many of them when it comes to college football. One of the little nuggets that he dropped that kind of, I don't think it went biased, but we didn't stop and look at it because our time and what we had coming up next was this one.
When I think back to my, the time when I began pounding the pavement about expansion, it was largely because of Boise State and what Chris Peterson had been doing. And they had like 2 really near misses. One field goal that went wide right during the BCS period that allowed Nevada to beat them, and it cost them a chance to play for it all. And I think that year was the year they beat Oklahoma in the Fiesta Bowl. So they truly were the fly in the ointment, the first of the flies in the ointment that I used to talk about on CBS all those years. And in a lot of ways, think about it, fellas, Boise State, Utah, and TCU were the 3 programs that elevated post-BCS. And 2 of the 3 have already gone to power conferences, and now 1 of the 3 is playing in the college football playoff. And Boise's still looking for a bigger home. I think it's the potential of Fresno State and Boise State being in another league within the next 12 months is very good. I'm telling you right now, these athletic directors in the Mountain West and a couple in a few other leagues are in major conversations right now with Yormark and Kliavkoff. You can look for a lot of realignment coming up. I think the Deion Sanders hiring at Colorado should send you a strong message about the direction of their program changing. I believe there's a very good chance that they may be coming the Big 12's way.
Well, there you go. I mean, there's a kind of a lot there that he said in just 98 seconds. But, the athletic directors in the Mountain West and are gearing up, and like what a conference he mentioned, but everybody's trying to talk to Kliavkoff and Brett Yormark. So there you go. There's your kind of realignment buzz of the day that, the schools are getting ready. And then you add into that, what we've heard from Kevin Warren, and we'll talk about that in a second too, that, this thing's not going to stop. And you got to be ready, when it's musical chairs right now, And so right now the music's playing for an indeterminate amount of time. You better be ready when the music does stop.
Yeah, that's South Florida.
Mm-hmm.
That's South USF, what it's like to not be ready when that time comes. And you imagine they're kicking themselves right now?
Yeah.
I mean, my gosh, you're about to watch, all these teams leaving the American. The American's going to look wildly different than it did. I don't agree with Tim, I will say, and I'll be happy to have egg on my face for this, but I don't believe that the Deion Colorado thing adds up to like Big 12 stuff. I really don't. I think that Colorado's going to sit in the pack for as long as it can possibly sit in the pack. At least that's just my opinion. I don't think that those 2 things are necessarily linked, although Deion could kill it in Big 12 country because he's been around here for so long and knows the area so well and has a number of connections. But Yeah, I mean, it's a topic that went to the wayside once the season started, and everything kind of cooled down. And but if you look back, you remember the summertime, I'm all talk about TV ratings and who could fit where. And I mean, I think you really do. You look at TCU, and if the Big Ten wants to go make a mark in Texas, I mean, where else are they looking? Mm-hmm. Texas Tech fan might raise their no, but like TCU academically's got it over them. I mean, football wise, and let's just give TCU credit for the fact that, as Tim mentioned, they were like the Mountain West team there for a while. They were the fun little like outside of the Big 12 Texas school, and having their success and all of that, and playing spoiler and getting to a Rose Bowl and doing all those types of things. Then they joined the Big 12 and kind of just become like everybody else, really. Had the great run with Boykin and company, and then kind of fell off after that, eventually leading to Patterson's departure. But here they are, and a little over a decade removed from not being a part of the club, they're in the college football playoffs Final Four. I mean, I think that's incredible, and really a testament to that athletic program and the school and the job that they've done to have that kind of an ascent. But yeah, I mean, realignment here in the next few weeks, and especially once the season wraps up, that is bound to be a hot topic once again, because I think we all feel like that's not completely over with. And TCU is kind of like my example of putting it out there. I know Kansas fans still hang on to every little rumor or blurb that they might get a Big Ten invite one day. West Virginia fans are always clamoring to be somewhere else, right? And we still don't know what the freaking Pac-12 TV deal looks like at this point in time. We don't know if Oregon and Washington are content or what other things that Kevin Warren might be thinking of. So I'm glad that we've been able to focus on games, and I'm glad that the focus on games is going to continue for the next several weeks. But that was just something, when I heard Tim say that, my ears perked up a little bit like, huh? And, just going back and listening to it and revisiting it, I don't think that that's all calmed down by any means. I think we just kind of forgot about it. But there's more upheaval to come. I have no doubt about that.
Well, and to that point, Kevin Warren today, just said
hold on.
Yeah.
Here it is. Grant Garrett.
Yeah. Kevin Warren today said, asked if at the forum that he was at in Vegas, if he's done expanding the Big Ten, he just said for now.
Yeah, there you go.
I mean, so there it is.
What a tease.
Again, for now.
Now, granted, he's in a position of power where he can play and flirt and kind of tease everybody, so he could knowingly have done that just to troll people, but I don't think that he really has any need to do that. So, for him to say that, I mean, they left it completely on the table the last time around. Like, they didn't shut the door. The season started. That's what happened.
Yeah.
The season got going, and we were all like, all right, let's just push this over to the side for right now. Now, granted, they've been able to remake the playoff during the course of the season, although the wheels were sort of in motion for that. But you can't really do much on the expansion front out in the public open eye, of course, during the season. But I have no doubts there's conversation still happening. I have no doubts that until everything is signed, sealed, delivered, saying this is where this team's going to be for the next 10 years, because, the Big 12 deal's been reported on, but there's nothing about a grant of rights that we've seen. There's nothing that's holding anybody hostage as far as huge buyouts go that we know of right now. So there are still a lot of questions that aren't quite – there's a lot of loose ends that haven't been tied up just yet that I think in the coming months we'll start to see those tighten up a little bit. In some cases, maybe not. It just leads to further discussion about what that could mean. But, expansion's not dead based on just recent comments.
All right, Jerry Chatham yesterday in the chat room. And, Jerry, I'm not sure if you're in it today or not. I've seen your name on occasion, but I don't get a chance to – there's a lot of you, and that's great. We appreciate it. David Smoak, any reason we have not heard from CDA, Coach Dave Aranda, since the post-game press conference after Texas? Yeah, there's a reason. He doesn't do that. Last year, after they won the Big 12 championship, there's the post-game press conference, and then you didn't hear from him again until they began what are called media sessions after practices begin for the bowl game, which was the Sugar Bowl and also Ole Miss. You will not see him, or at least not yet, have any kind of day of National Signing Day press conference, which coaches in the past and coaches even other programs now do it. He doesn't do that. There is the following after the bowl game announced press conference, which some former coaches at Baylor have done, and some even at other schools do that. So it's not because he's hiding. It's not because there's anything to worry about. It is just that's his style when it comes to playing a game and the season, at least the regular season, being over.
I mean, he's not going to do more media than he has to do. And, he's not somebody that's like, I'm going to use this to my advantage, like a Lane Kiffin or someone like that that's like, yes, put me in front of a camera. Let me speak on my university and let me pitch this to recruits and do all that's not Dave Aranda. I mean, yeah, at some point he's going to have to go back up to a podium. And I do think that in all those things that you mentioned, we need to hear from him in the next couple of weeks. I will agree with that. Ahead of their bowl game.
Once they start practicing.
Right, but like, I mean, he can't – I will say that there's got to be some kind of a signing day press conference, either the first or the second one. Like, I think as the media – we need an opportunity to pick his brain on some of these new guys. Just my opinion. I think that would be valuable for him to kind of explain their rationale with who they signed and why and sort of the direction they're going. There's been no confirmation about the coaches being gone.
Well, here's the deal. Signing day is the day before the bowl game.
Right.
So he will
tough.
probably have to do –
But there's a second one.
Yeah, he's going to have to do one.
But he would normally not be available the day before a game.
Yeah, so like that's going to be really weird. I do like the only thing I like is that he doesn't do we got invited to this bowl game press conference, because I think most of those are kind of mostly platitudes. It's just, oh yeah, great, we're fired up. So and so is a great team. We can't wait to play them. Blah 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 blah. But all the things that have happened subsequently since that announcement, those are things that we're going to have to hear from.
Why don't we hear from him when it's all done?
I mean, look,
I don't think I understand. I'm the one that mentioned a week or so ago, and you guys kind of looked at me like when I said that I wish there was more access to assistant coaches during the year. They are accessible during August, and then all of a sudden it's done. I think we could answer more questions or even ourselves form better opinions if we had a chance to do that during the season, which we did under the previous coaching staffs. But that's not the case when it comes to Dave Aranda. But yeah, you've had a defensive coordinator fired. You've had others no longer there. There are things in the transfer portal which you can't really talk about. I mean, it would be nice to hear from him. I think the next time you hear from him will be once they get back to practice, whenever they open up practice, and he talks after a practice leading up to the bowl game.
No, I agree with that, and I understand your point on the coordinators, but I think this year was evident that was probably not a great year to have the coordinators out there, because clearly they weren't on the same page. And I know that would have revealed that or whatever, but I don't think he wanted that mixed messaging out there. That's the whole point, is he doesn't want there to be more than one voice. But I understand where you're coming from.
Well, apparently there was more than one voice because they weren't on the same page.
So imagine that now being out in the public. I think that's what he was trying to avoid, was the mixed messaging being out in the public.
No, he was not trying to. I get what you're saying. He's never allowed them to be available.
Right, because
not just this year.
Right, I understand that, because I don't think he wants any mixed messages beyond what he is saying out in the public, period. And I think, what do you disagree on there?
I didn't.
Okay, I just don't think that he wants that. That's why that decision's been made. That is different than should he do it or not. That's a completely different conversation.
I think if we cover a team and some coaches have his philosophy and it's his team, he can do what he wants. I think it's healthy to have at least some sort of it doesn't have to be a sit-down one-on-one. But I do think it is healthy to have coaches who are out in front of the media once the season begins to answer questions. And if he is the coach, they know what he doesn't want them to say. It could be about performance. Yeah, you don't want to throw a player under the bus. I just think it would be healthier for us to be able to form an opinion rather than try to sneak around by texting assistant coaches who otherwise aren't available.
All right.
Does that make sense?
That's fair. Look, I mean, there's lots to do. Bill Parcells never did it, right?
No.
Actually, I don't know if Bill Parcells will let you, unless he was required to by the league rules, let you know who the other coaches were. I mean, like, he just, he called him the offensive coordinator.
The only year that other than with Aranda, and again, it's his program, I'm not arguing with his decision, I just feel like the access would be helpful, was the year Jim Grobe was the interim coach after Art Briles was fired, and all the assistants basically understood what Craig had mentioned about what Dave Aranda's philosophy. We need, especially that team, we need one voice. We don't need multiple voices. In the end, I think that hurt them because I think it would have been helpful for some of those guys to have a chance to talk a little bit, not so much about the scandal and the dark clouds, but just to talk a little bit, but they felt like they didn't need to. Bennett's the one that convinced Jim Grobe, you're the only one that needs to talk.
Well, and I do think that that's kind of the reverse of that situation because I don't think it was too a couple of them in particular's benefit to talk about.
Hell no, man. What are we talking about? They did not need to be talking to the media.
No, they
back
just
then.
did it on Twitter.
No, yeah. I mean, or their wife did or whatever. But yeah, I mean, I understand you want more. We're media. We want more media access. It'd be helpful to listen to Ron Roberts every week or whatever. But that's not Aranda's philosophy. Like, that's my whole thing. Is like, that's not what he does, though. So we can want it, but that's not what he does. So that is what it is. That's a completely separate topic from. I think that, he should speak surrounding National Signing Day at some point. Not this first one, that's great. But if he doesn't talk around this first one, or when we do get his media session right up next to the bowl game, well, how much time is there to talk about this class? Because now we're talking about, okay, coach, your defensive coordinator's gone, your special teams coach is gone, you've got Kyron Drones in the transfer portal, you've got National Signing Day, you've got this bowl. Like, how are we going to fit in all of that for one media session? So that's what my whole point was that we need to have a second session, a signing day session of some sort to be able to sort through some of these other topics.
You're talking about in February?
Yeah, that's all I'm saying is we need
it. That's a long time away. Yeah, okay.
But I mean, I don't know.
But by then, is it basically 2/3 of your class signed back in December?
Well, you can talk about them
in February.
Well, when the rest of them are. I mean,
they're all signed.
I mean, we can write down a list of questions we can ask him in February. I mean, if he's not going to be available on that stuff until then, but the bowl game right in the middle of the signing period is very interesting to me.
Especially theirs is as early as anybody's the day after.
Yeah, how do you have to navigate that? And the 21st, it's not going to. But I mean, I don't know. We haven't really gotten the full media schedule yet for the bowl game, have we? I haven't liked it. No. So there might be. This is not one of the ones like the Orange Bowl where they have them in there all week, taking them to a bunch of different places. I think they're only in there for a few days total. So it's not, there's not as many media events. We found that out, when Baylor played in Orlando, we got there and there was like one media availability. And we asked the guy, like, what's the deal? He's like, this is what we do here.
Man, I tell you what, the one in Phoenix and the one in Dallas, the Cotton Bowl, the access was amazing. I mean, the coordinators had their days along with the other assistant coaches. But yeah, with the National Signing Day the day before the bowl game.
That's my point. There's a lot of ground to cover, and if we don't hear from him in the next month, then we're not going to hear from him until March.
No,
basically.
But you will. We will. We'll hear from him.
I mean, yes, but I'm just saying, as far as a stand-up press conference goes, it would be nice to have him discussing multiple topics that are facing his football program right now, outside of like, hey, we're happy to play Air Force, and here's your 10 minutes to fit in 30 different things that are going on right now until
There will be
February.
A media schedule up in Fort Worth where he'll have to do that too. Now, whether he says much, and I think knowing Aranda, just the way he's done it before, they want to wait until they have a defensive coordinator hired, and then perhaps then there will be something. It might still just be a press release, but not a press conference. But we'll see what the timing is with them getting back to practices. That game is 15 days away, so there's a tight window between now and then. All right, when we come back, John Machota, the Cowboys are rolling. They have the Texans this week. I mean, that could get ugly because the Colts game got ugly. Couple of questions. What's going on lately now with OBJ? And this is 365 Sports.
Richard Carr, Buick GMC Cadillac, got a lot of great deals going on right now over at Richard Carr, as they are the people that you can count on, not only for a new vehicle, but also a pre-owned vehicle, if that's what you're in the market for, or just getting your regular vehicle service. Not in the mood to buy right now, but just needing to get that oil change or tires fixed or whatever the case may be. They can hook you up with that as well. Richard Carr's got, as I mentioned, trucks and SUVs in stock, dozens of Sierras, dozens of SUVs, the biggest inventory they've had in 2 years. Right now, you get 3.9% interest for well-qualified buyers on GMC Sierra and GMC Terrain trucks in stock, and 3.99% financing on Buick Encores, Buick Envisions, and Buick Enclaves in stock. When it comes to the Sierras, for example, you're looking at the best-in-class towing. You're looking at unsurpassed strength and premium comfort right now. Again, 3.9% financing. And current GMC or Buick owners get a $2,500 loyalty rebate on qualified GMC Sierra trucks. They've got dozens of quality pre-owned cars and trucks. They've got new vehicles on the lot. Everything affordable, thoroughly inspected, and ready to finance, and ready to reliably take you on the road this holiday season. So, for 23 years in Central Texas, Richard Carr has built a reputation as the people you can count on for your automotive needs. Check them out, run by proud Central Texans. Log on to richardcarr.com today. Call now or go see them now off Highway 6 at the Imperial exit.
From the first workout to the last practice, sports is an incredible and rewarding challenge. Hi, this is Dan Ingham with the First National Bank of Central Texas, and we're proud to support each athlete, every parent, and our educators. From families, small businesses, to the biggest industry, we're here to help. With remarkable products like our free First mobile app, we've got banking ideas that fuel big dreams. That's the First National Bank of Central Texas. Familiar faces making local decisions.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Waco Custom Marketplace is your home for holiday favorites for parties or time with the family, with various specials available while supplies last in store or ordering by phone, including 8 to 10 pound half spiral hams at $4.15 a pound, 12-pound pit hams at $4.35 a pound, 8 to 22 pound bone-in hams for $3.40 a pound, 14 to 16 pound whole raw turkeys at $2.85 a pound, and $4.80 a pound for 9 to 12 pound whole smoked turkeys, 6 to 8 pound mini pit hams for $5.99 a pound. Limit 4 of each item per customer. Call in advance to ensure availability or drop by Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco. Waco Custom Marketplace, your full-service butcher shop for customized orders or cuts of your favorite steaks or beef tenderloin or specially ordered prime rib roast. WacoCustomMarketplace.com.
Baylor Scott & White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, hand or wrist injuries, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trusts. Baylor Scott & White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
The secret to living your best life is pizza, obviously. Golden crust made from scratch, 3 fresh signature cheeses, and the toppings, crispy Old World pepperoni, savory Italian sausage, bacon. That's called a dream team. Find everything you need to live your best life and more at Marco's Pizza. Owner Bob Mock has been delivering pizza since 2001 and is the proud owner of 4 locations in Waco, Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and soon to be open in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive and North 19th Street, right behind the bank, is a hidden gem in Waco. If you're a fan of bourbon, especially local Texas bourbons, that's where you gotta go. Balcones, TX, Devil's River, whatever it is, they've got it. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, plus the best selection of craft beers in Waco, seasonally churned out throughout the year, whether it's spring, summer, fall, or winter. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, best selection of craft beers, a speedy drive-through window, and excellent customer service. Find out more on Instagram or just go by and see them. Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street behind the bank.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
In the market for a quality metal building? Since 1943, Pioneer Steel and Pipe has helped Central Texas residential and commercial customers with metal building design, panel options, building components, and trim options. Pioneer Steel and Pipe's residential line is energy efficient, offers low maintenance, reduces insurance payments, is impact resistant, and carries up to a 45-year limited warranty. In addition, they can also help you find a metal building contractor for your project. Pioneer Steel and Pipe with locations in Waco and Bryan and at pioneersboys.com.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
Rush comes for Fresno State. Low kick. Remigio will play it on the 30. Come up the field. He'll get to the 40. Has blockers. To the 50, to the 40. He may be gone. 30, 20. He's going to walk into the end zone, and Fresno State will take the lead 6-3.
The 5 o'clock hour is sponsored by Edward Jones Investments. with financial advisor Brad Wilson, investing his time and experience back to you and your money during today's changing times. Edward Jones, making sense of investing.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
By the way, there's 3 times we've come back from those billboards, and I have almost cost myself $10 every single time.
You're doing well.
You need to tighten that up a little bit.
Tighten it up.
Getting our names out there. I have almost jumped right into that $10 a pop.
It's about the
fine.
It's sometimes about the music beats.
I know what it is, but
Yeah.
I'm just telling you, I'm admitting that up front that I've been very disciplined, although it was very close to $30. We're now joined by John Machota, theathletic.com, Cowboys in the NFL. All right, John, I'm kind of already tired of the Odell Beckham sweepstakes, especially since he may never play a down this year, but I understand the value and I understand what teams are interested in. Where are we with that?
Yeah, I don't think you're alone on that one. I think there's a lot of people there that have kind of gotten, it's one thing that you can put up with, a lot of the, I guess, circus that would come with it if you knew that, you were getting a player and that player was going to be contributing a lot. But the fact that, we get a chance to talk to Micah Parsons today. Micah Parsons was on that recruiting trip that they had the other night to the Dallas Mavericks game. And Micah said that Odell told him that he probably could play in about 5 weeks. And so if you're a Cowboys fan or you're a Cowboys member of the front office, you hear that, and that doesn't sound great because, they want to try and get him out there. The plan, the hope was that they could get him out there and he could play some, regular season games and be ready to go for the postseason. And now it looks like, he probably wouldn't even be able to play until the postseason starts. And I just don't see the Cowboys being interested in that. And certainly not as much as interested as they were going into that visit. We got a chance real quick today going to the locker room, cross paths with Jerry Jones. And Jerry wouldn't, he wouldn't close the book on it. But that's just how Jerry is. But you can also tell that he's not nearly as enthusiastic as he was, let's say, about a week ago about the whole thing. And so, unfortunately, it just seems like the timelines aren't going to match up with where Odell is on coming back and where the Cowboys are for when they would need him to be out on the field.
And, John, I would assume that this is not something that they would, especially if somebody does sign him. But I don't know, look, the Giants and Bills are not out there sign him either. I know that there might be other teams that kick the tires on him, but if he's not going to play until the playoffs, there's only a certain amount of teams that he could help. Many of them probably wouldn't need him anyway, and maybe the Cowboys probably wouldn't even get involved in this in the offseason when they get a regular free agency anyway, because it's not really what they do.
No, and it seems like the entire time going in, I mean, Jerry said it multiple times that they needed him for this year. That was the key part to this whole deal. You probably, get him, convince Jerry for another year, like on a 2-year deal or something like that. If Odell Beckham was to work out and look good for their medical staff and their athletic trainers, so where they felt comfortable with it, but there was no workout. And so if you're not working out, they don't know for sure where he's at. And so when you don't know for sure, what kind of financial commitment are you really going to make? I mean, Jerry really wants Odell Beckham, but he wants an Odell Beckham that's healthy, that can contribute this year. He's not going to just do something just to do it. But also at the same time, I'm sure he doesn't mind of how much, we're talking about it right now and how much it's storyline for the last couple of weeks. Jerry doesn't mind any of that stuff that kind of comes with it. So it's one of those things where I'm sure he was really hopeful that he would have come to the Star a couple days ago, worked out, and maybe even if it wasn't like, hey, he's not going to come back for another few weeks, then yay, that's fine. Bring him back for the last couple games of the regular season. He'll be ready to go for the playoffs. But that doesn't even sound like a realistic timeline at this point.
Barnum and Bailey, baby. Barnum and Bailey, the circus. It could be a guy named Bill Cherry at wide receiver, and it would get attention, but obviously this one's a different animal. My other part about this, and I understand his talent, we asked David Hellman this on Monday, is the chemistry of this team. Yes, when you're winning, it looks great. Not that they were flawless despite scoring 50-something points against the Colts, but the chemistry of this team seems to be in a good place. Why mess with that?
I think the biggest thing that Jerry and the Cowboys believe is that Odell would be able to fit in with this group because of what they have on the roster, that it wouldn't really ruffle too many feathers, that, hey, the wide receiver group wouldn't mind having him, Dak wouldn't mind having him, the defense wouldn't mind having him. I mean, you had players all, publicly saying how much they'd like him on the team. And so I think that Jerry looked at it as, this will be, kind of a seamless transition because there's a lot of the right type of players in terms of how they would handle this. And let's be honest, they play for the Dallas Cowboys. And if you play for the Dallas Cowboys, you're used to a little bit of extra that comes along with it. And so the trade-off would be that Jerry is hopeful and the Cowboys would be hopeful that they would get the same impact that the Rams got last year, where Odell was one of the pieces that helped put them over the top and win the Rams a Super Bowl. And so, I think that's where it comes back to, is that Jerry sees that and he thinks, hey, this could be the missing piece. This could be the thing that we were missing, that we get in the postseason, and he makes some key plays, and that's what helps put us over the top, and we finally get back to a Super Bowl. And so if that's the possibility, I'm willing to take a gamble on that. I think that's where Jerry's at, and I think the rest of the team was fine with that too. But I thought one of the most interesting quotes out of locker room today was just how DeMarcus Lawrence talked about how, I want Odell if he's going to come in and help us, contribute to winning a Super Bowl. But, I'm not interested in if it's just going to be, and he said a circus with it, it's all about how's it going to help us win a championship. And I think that you can look at last year and say that the Rams wouldn't have got it done without Odell Beckham. I think he was a key piece there. Even though he did get hurt in the Super Bowl, he was well on his way to getting Super Bowl MVP. Why not try and kick the tires on that potentially being the piece that puts you over the top in Dallas?
John, you've always had a pretty good little working relationship there with Tank. He seems to enjoy you a little bit, but he seems to me to have reached the valley. He's always been a serious dude. Don't get me wrong, but I have a goal and there's not anything else point of his career.
There is no question about that. And I asked him today after he got done talking about, that with the Odell situation, I was like, well, has that changed for you where you're just, as you're older in your career, that, hey, this is just what you're looking for? And he says it's not, that he was always like that that's always been the thing that he's been focused on, was that, hey, I want to win a Super Bowl and do whatever it takes to get there. And there's no question this is the best defense he's been on. He knows that this is the best opportunity that he's had to win a Super Bowl. And so when you're at a position where he is in his career, you don't want to mess around with anything that could potentially, kind of throw a wrench in that and knock something off the track that's clearly on the track. And let's be honest, not only are things going well for them, but you just look across the rest of the league. I don't care who you are. You can sit there and be someone that just thinks that, the Cowboys are overrated every year, then that's fine. I don't know how you would look at the entire landscape of the NFL and not think that they have as good a chance as anyone to make a Super Bowl run. And not just with their talent, but the fact of, you see Jimmy Garoppolo go down. You see, the news come out today, Von Miller done for the season. And this team has got all its pieces. They're trending in the right direction at the right time. I get where players in that locker room are like, hey, we got all the pieces here. Let's not mess this up.
How concerned are they about the cornerback depth now that Anthony Brown is out? Jordan Lewis has been out for quite some time now. Kelvin Joseph is going to have to step up and play a bigger role. And I know they brought in Mackenzie Alexander, former second-round pick, this week to the practice squad.
Yeah, there's no question that's a huge question mark now, and it's the biggest question mark they have on that roster. I mean, you go break it down position by position on the depth chart, and it's the only position right now where you're like, that doesn't look great. And here's the thing: if you go back and you look at the investments they've made in a second-round pick into Kelvin Joseph, if you feel comfortable he can step in and be a starting corner and play like a second-round pick, you wouldn't have many issues with this whole thing. Yes, you'd rather have Anthony Brown and Jordan Lewis out there, but you'd feel like, hey, we got a second-round pick. He can step in. Here we go. But I don't know that they know for sure that, Kelvin Joseph's going to be the answer. And frankly, where I'm at covering this team, you mentioned Mackenzie Alexander. Well, there's also Kendall Sheffield, who, is a guy that played with Dan Quinn in Atlanta. And I can tell you right now, I don't know if the playoffs started tomorrow, I don't know if the best starting corner opposite Trayvon Diggs is Kelvin Joseph. I don't know if it's Nahshon Wright. I don't know if it's Sheffield. I don't know if it's Alexander. Like, that still has to be figured out. To be honest with you, I think that's the thing that most fans should be most interested in going into this game on Sunday. Cowboys are 17-point favorites, so there's not a lot of interest in terms of, I don't know if they're going to be able to win this game. So what are the storylines? I think one of the top storylines has to be, what does Kelvin Joseph do in this game? He's going to get every opportunity to play. Let's see if he can, run with this opportunity. But then, we go out to practice today, and Kelvin Joseph is dealing with an illness, so he's not out there. So we'll see come Sunday. But this is absolutely the opportunity that if you're Kelvin Joseph, you've been waiting for this for since over a year now. Here's your opportunity. Let's see what he does with it.
Well, and of course he was in the doghouse there for a little bit because of the incident. Who's not playing well? What individual player right now, John, or maybe players, are not meeting at least what is expected of them?
Yeah, that's a good question. There isn't, when you say that, there is not an immediate name that jumps out to me, because I really think at the wide receiver group, it starts with Gallup and Lamb, and I think that they both are hitting their stride right now. I think Dak is playing well. I think the running back position is playing well. I think the offensive line is trending in a good direction, and then you get you got Tyron Smith back out there today practicing, and I don't know if he'll go this week, but it certainly looks like he's ready to go within the next week or two at the latest. So that's in a good situation. You go on the defensive side of the ball, and guys are stepping up at linebacker, defensive line, safety looks like it's in as great of shape as it's been. Corner opposite of Kelvin Joseph. That whole Kelvin Joseph Nation right is the only real question mark there. So there's not really anything of that spot. So I would say the only thing is that we haven't really seen too much lately in the return game. I think with Kavontae Turpin, most of us thought by now that there would be maybe some bigger plays in the return game that we just haven't seen, but that's about it. I mean, he's taking care of the football too. So it's not like there's been a huge issue there, because let's be honest, the way the game has changed, the way the rules have changed and things like that, it's not like anybody's really making a ton of big returns and things like that. So there really isn't a huge weakness right now. Even before the Anthony Brown injury, I think you'd say it's probably that number 2 corner spot, just because, no one's really trying to go after Trayvon Diggs. It's been that other corner spot. And even since Jordan Lewis has gone down, I think Deron Bland's played pretty well in the slot. So it's really that other cornerback spot. Who's going to take that position and take it to the next level and step in and win that opportunity? And as right now, who that's going to be, your guess is as good as mine.
John, what was your first year on the Cowboys beat?
It was 2011.
Okay. Is this the best the NFC East has been in that time period? Top to bottom?
Yeah, as a whole, no question. I mean, there was definitely some better Giants teams, through that time that have actually gone to the Super Bowl and won it. Same thing with the Eagles. But I think for Washington, this is about as good as they've been on paper, outside of that 1 year with, RG3 in 2012. So, but as a whole, together with them all being at the level they're at, I don't think that there's any question that this is the best they've been. I don't think there's any question this is the best Cowboys team from top to bottom on both sides of the ball.
They had that mess up against Green Bay, which is just because Aaron Rodgers is alive. And then there were a couple of games in which you just, like the Colts for a little bit, whatever. But in the past, they probably would have blown the tire on another one of those games and then been kind of like, who knows? But they are beating people up, even if it's close, 21-19, whatever. When they get that damn thing going, it's impressive. That defense is going to score almost weekly. That's why I asked you the question, who's not playing well? Because I can't think of anybody that's just, oh, my God, the right guard, it's not going to be him. But, it just seemed like everybody's playing at a very high level, and I think that has a lot to do with the coaching, but also the fact that they've compiled a bunch of talent. My God, have they compiled some talent.
Yeah, they have really outstanding depth at just about every position. I mean, heck, look at how many years, that's the thing with the Cowboys since I've covered them. It's always been a good year, then a down year, good year, then a down year. And this season was even setting up with the way Tyron goes down, you lose Dak, and you're like, oh, yep, typical Cowboys that we've seen recently. This is going to be their down year because they get hurt and they get key injuries. And, we didn't expect it, but you get your rookie Tyler Smith steps in and does a solid job at left tackle. And then Cooper Rush steps in at quarterback and they win 4 out of 5 games. I mean, that just shows you, that's, a lot of credit has to go to Mike McCarthy. Let's be honest. They win on Sunday. That's back-to-back double-digit win seasons for the first time since 1996. I mean, that to me is a long time ago to finally have back-to-back double-digit win seasons for the Cowboys, and it's shaping up to be back-to-back playoff seasons for the Cowboys, which hasn't happened since 06-07, and that's a long time ago too. So, yeah, and all this, no question, that roster is as loaded as it's been in a long time. But a lot of credit's got to go to Mike McCarthy too for delegating the way he does, keeping the ship on on path, even when there's been obstacles in the way and things that could take it off path. And, he's pushing the right buttons and doing the right things. So now it comes down to keeping the train on the tracks now going into the playoffs. But then also when you get to the playoffs, finally taking that next step there. That's what everyone's waiting for now. It's can you now, finally get past that second round, get to an NFC championship, and then obviously get to a Super Bowl.
Cowboys and Florida State, man, it really is like the 90s all over again.
I can only hope. Bring back Kelly Kapowski.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, yeah, all of the above. All of that sounds great.
You're hardly tough to deal with. And on top of that, I just saw where the Red Sox signed the Japanese player. Is that right?
Yeah, they signed it like the next Ichiro.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, you hope he is.
Yeah. Well.
All right, John, great stuff, buddy. Appreciate your time. As always, every Wednesday, he's right there with us talking NFL Cowboys as well, as the Cowboys are on a roll, and they beat the living tar out of the Colts, especially in the second half. All right, by the way, tomorrow we will have former Army Cadet quarterback Ahmad Bradshaw. He is the one who was the quarterback when Army broke the long and exhausting, traumatizing streak to the Navy in the Army-Navy game, which is coming up on Saturday. He will join us early in the show tomorrow, along with Mack Rhodes will join us tomorrow. He was at Big 12 meetings, and then also he'll join us tomorrow on the show, among others. This is 365 Sports. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lakeshore Drive in Waco, where you can walk in the door and help yourself become better, fit, healthy. There's a guy, Scott, that's working out in the morning. I always try to tell a story about somebody who is there. He's in pretty good shape, but he started training. He changed trainers from Alex and then Christy London because Alex got hurt. He is in incredible shape. And I saw him the other day on the treadmill, and I said, now you're doing that? Don't get involved in it. He goes, I want to get better in my cardio. So that's what he's now doing when he's not having any kind of personal training. Also, during the holidays, if you have family coming in town and somebody likes to work out, if they want to stay in shape while they're here for the holidays, they have special passes for the weekend and even weekly passes as well if they are in town for that. Right now, of course, what you have is one of the most popular sports, and I mean it is loaded up. The pickleball courts are constantly full. Jody Thurman runs that. They've had tournaments, and of course they have constant just play among the members. It is Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lake Shore Drive in Waco.
In our logo and advertising, we say we are people that you can count on. What does that mean? It starts with providing a quality vehicle and quality service at a fair price. But it also means we do what we say we will do, and we treat people fairly with respect. It starts by hiring great people, good local folks who work hard with a caring attitude. Our employees are the real reason we are people that you can count on. Put us to the test and see for yourself that at Richard Carr Motors, we are people you can count on.
From the first workout to the last practice, sports is an incredible challenge. Hi, this is Dan Ingham with the First National Bank of Central Texas, and we're proud to support each athlete, every parent, and our educators. From families, small businesses, to the biggest industry, we're here to help. With remarkable products like instant issue debit cards free at all of our banking centers, we've got banking ideas that fuel big dreams. The First National Bank of Central Texas. Familiar faces making local decisions.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Hi, this is Paul Catalina. I recently got engaged to the love of my life, but the most important thing that I had to do before I popped the question was get that perfect ring. And I know nothing about rings. So I went to the wedding ring store, Boozer's Jewelers on Valley Mills Drive. I knew I needed a custom design, and that's exactly what they do. 9 out of 10 of their engagement rings are designed in-house. The entire process took less than a month, and they were great every step of the way. Great options on financing, excellent selection, and talented designers. My fiance and I get nonstop compliments on the ring. I only deserve credit for doing the smartest thing I could, walking into Boozer's and letting them work their magic. Your one-of-a-kind fiance deserves a one-of-a-kind ring, and that's what you get at Boozer's. Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store on Valley Mills Drive.
Automatic Chef Canteen is a full-service micro-market vending and office coffee provider with state-of-the-art vending equipment, a wide variety of products, and offering custom-fitted micro-market vending office coffee solutions for your employee break room. You want a full break room solution and a workplace oasis? Well, Automatic Chef Canteen, locally owned and operated for over 50 years in Central Texas, also includes in-house mechanics on call 24/7 for fast, reliable service and maintenance. Automatic Chef Canteen, 6900 Imperial Drive in Waco, or online at automaticchefcanteen.com.
Howdy, Chet Garner here, professional guide, searching for bears in the wild. But not just any bears, oh no, a particular kind. With hundreds of thousands roaming freely in the wild, yet still hard to spot unless you know the signs. There they are, Baylor bears. If you're a bear enthusiast or even a bear yourself, join me and let's find some bears in the wild.
Join the expedition at baylor.edu/alumni.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive and North 19th Street, right behind the bank, is a hidden gem in Waco. If you're a fan of bourbon, especially local Texas bourbons, that's where you gotta go. Balcones, TX, Devil's River, whatever it is, they've got it. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, plus the best selection of craft beers in Waco, seasonally churned out throughout the year. Whether it's spring, summer, fall, or winter, Riverbend Liquor and Wine, best selection of craft beers, a speedy drive-through window, and excellent customer service. Find out more on Instagram or just go by and see them. Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street behind the bank.
This is Paul Catalina's Top 5 at 5:55.
Welcome back, 365 Sports. Top 5 fits for Spencer Sanders. Of all the people that have gone into the portal, this is the one that really surprised me the most, but I think Oklahoma State's at 11 or 12 guys in the portal.
Remember
now.
when it was on our board, the premium section, and I remember Robert Allen actually reached out to me and said, "Man, this is not happening." And then, like less than a week later, and he's as tied into that program as anybody. Here we are.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on at Oklahoma State this year, but I mean, there's always, and it's not just. I mean, everybody loses guys. You know, if you're in your second recruiting, 2 years after you've been recruited, you haven't really played that much. You're going to jump in the portal. That kind of happens, but not your, 4-year starting quarterback. I mean, that just to me is kind of amazing, especially considering that he's had success there. But here for Spencer Sanders, number 5, Miami. Could use the juice of a one and done like him really badly and might be able to kind of help some of the other transfers get in there. Now, what kind of works against his favor in going to Miami is there's a long way to go there. So if his goal is to contend and play for a conference and national title, Miami is more than just him away from doing that right now.
Yeah, they are, and I mean, he would be a good stopgap for them. I mean, what's Tyler Van Dyke's status?
Yeah, see, I don't know, and I at this point, if I'm Miami, I don't really care.
No, I don't care either. I mean, that's not preventing me from going and getting Spencer Sanders or from playing a young guy or whatever. But I was just curious, as I hadn't seen really much of an update. We're seeing all these portal guys going in, and I hadn't, seen his name mentioned very often. So just curious on sort of where that was. But yeah, I mean, Miami's shown that they can play the NIL game, if that's something that tips the scales in their favor. Fun location. We saw De'Aaron King go down there and, play for a couple years. Obviously got hurt and didn't work out ultimately the way he wanted it to. But Texas guys are no, stranger to heading down there here recently. And, yeah, he plays at Oklahoma State, but he's from Denton, up in the DFW area. So, yeah, I could see that.
I do have a wild card in here I'll mention at the end that I didn't list just because of a couple reasons, but we'll kick it around on that. Number 4, Kentucky. Losing Will Levis, obviously. It's a pretty good team. It's got a good coach in Mark Stoops. And, look, they dropped off a little bit this year. Most of that, a lot of it had to do with the fact that Will Levis was injured a couple times, and they kind of yo-yoed back and forth. But I could see him kind of easily fitting over there with Mark Stoops in Kentucky and playing the SEC.
Yeah, I wouldn't have considered them. Just simply they wouldn't have come to mind, really. But yeah, with the QB news. I mean, obviously they're in the market. I don't know what their depth chart really looks like, but I mean, I don't think it probably stacks up to Spencer Sanders. As I had somebody like as random talking about Sanders, somebody's like, yeah, well, they got this recruit. Has he played 4 years as a starter?
No.
Like, I mean, that matters, right? Or am I just tripping? Or we just think that freshmen come in and just ball out of control from day number one? Like, yeah, his experience matters, man. And so wouldn't have put this together, but yeah, okay, Kentucky, that would be cool.
Yeah, this one actually is the only one on this list who doesn't have kind of who does have a ready-made maybe player in the wings. Penn State likes their true freshman guy whose name escapes me.
Drew Allard.
Drew Allard. They like him, but this allows them to give him another year. I think with the skill position guys, especially the young ones they have there, this would be really, really good. I know that there's a connection here with Mike Yurcich there.
Mike Yurcich.
Yeah, so that one kind of makes sense in that, they have a connection. So I don't know. I mean, it would not shock me to see him to go here, especially given the connection with their offensive coordinator.
Yeah, I mean, he worked with them at Oklahoma State, obviously. So, yeah, that would make sense if they were to join up. Absolutely, yeah.
Number 2, Florida. They need to be in it on every single one-and-done guy. They've got 2 good quarterbacks coming in, and Jaden Rashada, and now we know DJ Lagway today. But both those guys, that's one of them is 2 years from now. One of them is going to be a freshman. So they need somebody to stopgap that, and they are good enough to where quarterback play will elevate them. Anthony Richardson's gone; he's not playing the bowl game. All that. So Jalen Kitten is obviously off the roster. So this one here, and especially. Given his skill set and Rashada and Lagway's skill set, I think that would be a good guy for them to watch. Oh, at least for not Lagway, he'll be gone, but for Rashada especially.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Was Penn State your number 3?
Yeah,
I thought I wasn't glancing at the screen. I thought we were still talking about Kentucky.
No.
So I want to make sure that when we're talking about yours, that was about Penn State. I didn't know if you had that up there. Sorry. But yeah, I think Penn State actually is like my strongest lean for him because of that very reason.
Yeah.
I wanted to mention that. But yeah, sorry. I thought the graphic was different. My bad.
Yeah, but the Gators just need somebody. They need or not. They're going to have to I assume they're going to get one, but this to me would maybe be the best one they could get.
Well, I mean, if you're going to go in the portal and get somebody, you might as well get Spencer Sanders, right? I mean, if you got your young guys waiting in the wings and you're not ready to throw them to the wolves just yet, and obviously Anthony Richardson was a good player for you, but I don't see any reason why Sanders can't go in there and do similar damage. So,
and Sanders has been a better college player than Richardson
by far, for a lot longer. Done way more in his career, and yeah, I absolutely think this would be a great little stopgap for them. I don't know about his fit, obviously, like to a T in every single offensive, mindset, but he can do a little bit of everything, and yeah, Florida would make sense.
Yeah, I used to like Billy Napier. Now I just have to respect him because he's the coach of the Gators. But I have a lot of respect for him and what he does as offensive mind. I think he works well with Spencer Sanders' skill set. Number 1, Chip Kelly. I think Chip Kelly can do a lot of great things with Spencer Sanders in that system. Probably not quite as fast as DTR, but still a running quarterback, big arm, all that. I wouldn't see them taking too much of a drop-off with Spencer Sanders from DTR this year.
Yeah, no, I see some things, and he was dinged up this year. Obviously, that didn't help matters, and yeah, he can throw the occasional bad pick, and especially Baylor fans have seen him do that more often than not. But like those moments aren't all the time, and like show me a quarterback who's perfect. I don't know. I feel like there's kind of some downplaying of Spencer Sanders just in certain comments, but there's also plenty of people who do think like, he's definitely one of the better in the portal. So it's not totally crazy, but I don't know. I just don't feel like he's as respected, maybe because I've just seen him so much versus some of the other guys who are far, far less proven than he is. He's just a one-year guy. Like, if you just need a year guy, like, here's Spencer freaking Sanders. But, yeah, UCLA would be a great spot for him. I saw, there was I guess especially with Wisconsin making all these changes about, like, what if him go to join up with Phil Longo now that he's heading there? But I think UCLA would be great. Chip Kelly could definitely bring out the best in him. And DTR had a fantastic year for the Bruins. They seem to have something kind of cooking there. So, yeah, I'd love to see him out in L.A.
My wild card for this, and the reason I didn't put him on there, but I did want to discuss it, would be A&M.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because, look, you give Connor Wigman another year to kind of adjust, especially they're probably going to have a new system, but none of us know what that's going to be yet and what the offensive situation is going to be there. Spencer Sanders, like you said, is from Denton. He's a Texas guy, so it wouldn't be outside the realm of possibility to me to see him go to A&M. I just couldn't put him on the list because what their offense is going to be to this point, we don't know. We have no idea.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's all on the OC hire, right? Whoever that's going to be and whatever that's going to be and all that. But, yeah, A&M, they would make some sense, so long as Weigman's cool with that, obviously. And I don't know how much say he has in it, but in this world, players do have a lot more say than they used to. And, maybe he's expecting now that he's going to be the guy. But if you can get beyond that, then, yeah, Sanders should get a look in College Station, absolutely. I mean, for any program that I think, like, the thing with Kentucky and probably Miami and probably Florida as well is, like, are you a quarterback away from the playoff? I think UCLA obviously had a very good quarterback and didn't quite get to the playoff, obviously. Too many blemishes, but we're kind of, had opportunities to knock on the door. Penn State, I think, an expanded playoff, they're in, and they're maybe one of the better teams in the country that's not getting talked about enough. But the Aller thing there's a lot of hype around him. So, I think UCLA would probably, of these teams, give him the best shot at the playoff just because of Aller in Happy Valley. But he's a guy that could definitely be that missing piece for a CFP contender who otherwise doesn't have that capability because of their quarterback position.
All right, great stuff, Paul. As always, I mean, he's going to make somebody better. I know there's some flaws, but my goodness, who doesn't have various flaws? Tomorrow, again, we'll have Ahmad Bradshaw, former Army quarterback, along with Mack Rhodes, among others. One note in college football to wrap it up, Oregon State's Jack Coletto was named the Paul Hornung Award winner. He played quarterback, fullback, H-back, slot receiver, wide receiver, linebacker, slot corner, nickel, and wide corner, and defensive end for the Beavers this year. He was named the most versatile player in all of college football. Thanks to Garrett Ross. Thanks to Jacob Wilson. I just put out my high school football podcast, semifinal week, on our site, on my Twitter feed, and also my high school website, Smoky.com. For Jack McKenzie, Levi, Emery, and so many of you, our sponsors, chat room, text line, we try to get to all of you. Thank you very much. I'm David Smoak. Good night, 365 Sports.